babysitter arrived early and found the 7-year-old twins locked in a dark closet. When she asked why they were there, what they told her about their mother's boyfriend made her call 911. Olivia Parker drummed her fingers nervously on the steering wheel as she double-checked the address on her phone. The late September sun cast long shadows across the tree-lined street in Brookline, a peaceful Boston suburb where Victorian houses stood shoulder to shoulder like aging sentinels. Number 47, Maple Avenue was a handsome 3-story townhouse with a fresh coat of navy blue paint and crisp white trim. The garden, though small, was meticulously maintained, with chrysanthemums blooming in terracotta pots on either side of the front steps. "This has to be worth at least $2 million, Olivia murmured to herself, suddenly conscious of her second-hand Honda Civic with the dent in the passenger door. She checked her watch. 4:30 p.m. She was 30 minutes early for her first meeting with Jessica Mills and her 7-year-old twins. Punctuality had always been Olivia's thing, a trait her mother had instilled in her with almost religious fervor. Early is on time is late. She could hear her mother's voice echoing in her head. Olivia's phone pinged with a text from her roommate, Zoe. "Good luck with the new gig. Don't let those rich people intimidate you. Remember, you're the one with the fancy child psych degree." Olivia smiled but felt a flutter of anxiety. Her degree was indeed fancy. A recently acquired BA in child psychology from Boston University that had cost her a small fortune in student loans. But the job market had proven more challenging than expected, and after 3 months of fruitless applications to counseling centers and schools, she had reluctantly expanded her search to include babysitting. At 24, she felt overqualified yet somehow also underexperienced. This job with the Mills family wouldn't solve her financial problems, but it would provide some practical experience with children to bolster her resume. She checked her reflection in the rearview mirror, tucking a strand of chestnut hair behind her ear. Her hazel eyes looked tired. She'd been up late last night preparing a portfolio of child development activities, just in case Ms. Mills wanted to see evidence of her qualifications. Olivia applied a quick swipe of lip balm, straightened the collar of her sensible blue cardigan, and decided it was time to make her approach. The weight of her psychology textbooks-filled backpack reminded her that she had a paper due next week for her continuing education course. 6 months after graduation, and she was still grinding away at additional certifications, hoping each one would be the key that unlocked a proper career. As Olivia approached the house, she noticed that the curtains in the front windows were drawn despite the beautiful autumn day. No lights appeared to be on inside. She climbed the front steps and pressed the doorbell, hearing its muffled chime echoing within. After waiting a full minute with no response, she tried again, this time holding the button a bit longer. Still nothing. Olivia glanced at her phone to confirm she had the right day and time. The email from Jessica Mills was clear. Thursday, 5 p.m. If possible, please come a bit early so we can discuss the children's routine before I leave for my shift. She was about to call the number Jessica had provided when she noticed the front door was slightly ajar. Not enough to be obvious from the street, but unmistakable up close. A thin sliver of darkness visible between door and frame. "Hello," Olivia called, pushing the door open a few inches. "Ms. Mills? It's Olivia Parker, the babysitter." The entryway beyond was dim, illuminated only by what little sunlight filtered through the gap. Olivia hesitated, an unexpected chill running down her spine despite the mild autumn temperature. Something felt off. "Ms. Mills? Emma? Noah?" She called again, louder this time. Only silence answered her. Common sense told her to wait outside, perhaps call Jessica Mills to confirm she was expected. But an inexplicable urgency propelled her forward. What if something was wrong? What if someone needed help? Olivia pushed the door fully open and stepped inside. "Hello? Anyone home? It's Olivia, the babysitter," she announced, her voice echoing slightly in the foyer. The house was immaculate. To her right was a formal living room with a pristine white sofa and gleaming hardwood floors. To her left, a dining room with a crystal chandelier hanging over a polished mahogany table. Everything was perfectly arranged, like a furniture showroom. There were no toys scattered about, no evidence of the 7-year-old twins she'd been hired to watch. The silence was unnerving. Olivia moved further into the house, her footsteps sounding unnaturally loud on the hardwood floor. She passed through a kitchen that looked barely used, spotless granite countertops, high-end appliances, not so much as a coffee mug left out. "Hello? Is anyone home?" She called again, louder this time. That's when she heard it. A soft, muffled sound coming from upstairs. Something between a whimper and a sob. Olivia froze, listening intently. There it was again. Definitely a child's voice, and it sounded distressed. Adrenaline surged through her as she hurried toward the staircase, taking the steps 2 at a time. The upper hallway was dark, all the doors closed except for one at the far end, which stood slightly ajar. The sound was coming from behind a door on the right. A soft, rhythmic whimpering punctuated by what sounded like whispered words of comfort. "Hello? Are you okay in there?" Olivia called, approaching the door cautiously. The whimpering abruptly stopped, replaced by a tense silence. Olivia gently knocked on the door. "Hi there. My name's Olivia. I'm the new babysitter. Is everything okay?" After a moment of silence, a small, tremulous voice replied, "Are you alone?" The question sent another chill down Olivia's spine. "Yes, I'm alone. I'm here to meet Ms. Mills and to look after Emma and Noah." "Is that you?" More silence. Then, "Is Richard with you?" Olivia didn't know who Richard was. Jessica Mills hadn't mentioned anyone by that name in their brief correspondence. "No, there's no Richard with me. I promise I'm alone. I'm just the babysitter." After what seemed like an eternity, the door slowly opened a crack, revealing a sliver of a small, pale face and one wide blue eye. "Are you Emma or Noah?" Olivia asked gently, crouching down to be at eye level with the child. "I'm Emma," the girl whispered, opening the door a bit wider. She appeared thin and somewhat disheveled, her blonde hair tangled and her pink t-shirt wrinkled. "Noah's here too. We were being quiet like Richard said." The door opened further to reveal a bedroom decorated in soft blues and grays. 2 twin beds with identical blue comforters stood against opposite walls. Between them was a closet with louvered doors, currently closed, and it was from there that Olivia could now clearly hear the sound of stifled crying. "Is Noah in the closet?" Olivia asked, keeping her voice calm despite the alarm bells ringing in her mind. Emma nodded, her blue eyes wide and wary. "We have to stay in there when we're too loud. Richard said if Mom found out we were bad, she'd send us away to different schools." Olivia's professional training kicked in, overriding her shock. She kept her expression neutral, her voice steady. "I see. And how long have you been in there today?" Emma's small shoulders lifted in a shrug. "Since after lunch, I think. Richard said he'd be back soon, but that was a long time ago." "Would it be okay if we let Noah out now?" Olivia asked, careful not to betray the mix of horror and anger churning within her. Emma hesitated, glancing nervously toward the hallway. "Richard will be mad." "Richard isn't here right now," Olivia said gently, "and I'm in charge until your mom gets home. I think Noah might feel better if he could come out. Don't you?" After a moment's consideration, Emma nodded and moved toward the closet. She opened the louvered doors to reveal her brother huddled on the floor among shoes and fallen clothes hangers, his knees drawn up to his chest, face buried in his arms. He looked up as light flooded his small prison, his tear-stained face a mirror image of his sister's. Same blue eyes, same blonde hair, same expression of wariness and fear. "It's okay," Emma told him. "Richard's gone, and the babysitter says we can come out." Noah looked at Olivia with undisguised suspicion. "Are you going to tell on us?" he asked, his voice hoarse. The question broke Olivia's heart. "No, Noah. You're not in any trouble," she assured him, maintaining her calm demeanor despite the rage building inside her. "Would you like to come out now? Maybe get something to drink?" Noah uncurled himself slowly, wincing slightly as he stood. As he stepped out of the closet, Olivia noticed dark bruises circling his upper arm, for distinct marks that looked disturbingly like fingertips. "Noah, did you hurt your arm?" she asked casually, though her heart was pounding. The boy quickly pulled down his sleeve. I fell, he said too quickly, not meeting her eyes. He fell down the stairs, Emma echoed, the siblings' coordination eerily practiced. Olivia nodded, choosing not to press the issue yet. How about we go downstairs and have a snack? Are you hungry? Both children nodded eagerly, the prospect of food momentarily eclipsing their fear. As they made their way downstairs, Olivia noticed other concerning signs she'd missed on her first pass through the house. There were no family photos anywhere. No smiling snapshots of the twins or their mother adorning the walls or shelves. The refrigerator door, usually a gallery of children's artwork in most homes with kids, was bare and spotless. The house felt less like a home and more like a stage set, beautiful but impersonal. In the kitchen, Emma and Noah sat at the island counter while Olivia rummaged through the refrigerator. It was surprisingly sparse. Some yogurt, a half-empty carton of milk, a few apples, and not much else. What do you usually have for a snack? Olivia asked, trying to establish a normal conversation. We're not allowed to get food by ourselves, Noah replied. Richard says we make too many crumbs. Sometimes Mom leaves us granola bars in our backpacks, Emma added. We save them for when we're really hungry. Olivia found some cheese and crackers in the pantry and arranged them on a plate, along with apple slices. As the twins ate, too quickly, she noted. She asked casual questions about their school, their friends, their favorite subjects. Gradually, they began to relax, the fear in their eyes receding somewhat as they realized this new adult wasn't going to punish them for speaking or eating. When will Mom be home? Noah asked between bites. She should be here soon, Olivia replied, checking her watch. It was nearly 5 p.m. She told me she works at the hospital. Is that right? Emma nodded. She's a nurse. She works a lot since Dad left. And Richard? Is he your dad's friend? Olivia probed gently. Both children stiffened at the name. No, Emma said. He's Mom's special friend. He stays here sometimes when Mom has to work nights. He doesn't like us very much, Noah added in a whisper, as if afraid of being overheard despite Richard's absence. Why do you say that? Olivia asked. Emma shot her brother a warning look, but Noah continued. Because he says so. He says we're too loud and too messy, and that Mom only keeps us because she has to. Olivia's heart sank further. That's not a nice thing to say. Richard says lots of not nice things, Emma said matter-of-factly. But we're not supposed to tell. It's a secret between us and him. Before Olivia could pursue this concerning revelation, the front door opened, and a voice called out, Hello? Olivia? Are you here already? The twins' reaction was immediate and alarming. Both children went rigid, eyes wide with fear. Noah actually slid off his stool and moved as if to hide under the counter before recognizing the voice wasn't Richard's. A woman hurried into the kitchen, Jessica Mills, presumably. She was wearing scrubs under an open cardigan. Her blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, dark circles prominent under eyes that matched her children's. She looked exhausted but managed a smile when she saw Olivia. You must be Olivia. I'm Jessica. I'm so sorry I'm late. My shift ran over, and then traffic was a nightmare. Her gaze shifted to the twins, and her smile faltered slightly. Emma, Noah, what are you doing downstairs? Where's Richard? The children exchanged glances but remained silent. Richard wasn't here when I arrived, Olivia said, keeping her tone neutral. The front door was unlocked, so I came in to check if everything was okay. I found Emma and Noah upstairs. Jessica frowned. That's odd. Richard was supposed to stay until you arrived. She turned to the twins. Did Richard tell you where he was going? Emma spoke up, her voice small. He said he'd be right back. That we should stay in our room and be quiet. Jessica sighed, pulling out her phone. Let me call him. He probably just ran to the store or something. She dialed a number and waited, then frowned when there was apparently no answer. Voicemail. Strange. Olivia hesitated, unsure how to broach the disturbing situation she'd discovered. Ms. Mills, when I arrived, I found the children in their bedroom closet. They seemed to be under the impression they needed to stay there. Jessica's expression shifted from confusion to embarrassment. In the closet? Emma. Noah. Were you playing hide and seek? Her tone was light, but there was an edge of concern. Richard put us there, Noah blurted out before Emma could stop him. He said we were too loud. Jessica's face paled. What are you talking about? Richard wouldn't do that. But uncertainty crept into her voice. It's not the first time, Emma admitted quietly. We have to go in there when we're bad. Jessica stared at her daughter, then at Olivia, clearly struggling to process this information. I don't understand. Richard has never mentioned any behavior issues serious enough to… sometimes he says they can be a handful, but… She trailed off, then squared her shoulders. There must be some misunderstanding. The twins have very active imaginations. Olivia chose her next words carefully. Ms. Mills, I noticed some bruising on Noah's arm. Jessica's gaze snapped to her son. Noah, let me see your arm. Reluctantly, Noah rolled up his sleeve, revealing the finger-shaped bruises that were now darkening to a deep purple. Jessica gasped, kneeling to examine the marks more closely. Baby, what happened? She asked, her voice trembling. I was running in the house, Noah mumbled, not meeting his mother's eyes. Richard said I had to stop. He grabbed Noah really hard, Emma added, her young face solemn. And then he put us in the closet because we were crying too loud. Jessica looked stricken, her professional composure crumbling. How long? Noah asked, his voice barely audible. Officer Reyes glanced at her partner. Of course, she said. But we might need to ask him to step out for a few minutes later so we can talk to you alone. Is that okay? Noah hesitated, then nodded. Principal Warren cleared her throat. Perhaps my office would be more appropriate for this discussion, she suggested, gesturing down the hallway. As they moved toward her office, Mark noticed Noah's breathing had quickened. He placed a reassuring hand on the boy's shoulder. I'll be right there with you, he murmured. Principal Warren's office was a stark contrast to the sparse front reception. Here were family photos, potted plants, and shelves lined with educational texts and awards. She motioned for Noah to sit in one of the plush chairs facing her desk. But the boy remained standing until Mark took a seat and patted the chair beside him. Now, Officer Mendez began once they were all settled. Mr. Hunter told the dispatcher that you gave him a note, Noah. Can we see that note? Mark reached into his pocket and withdrew the folded paper, handing it to Officer Mendez. A heavy silence filled the room as both officers read it. Noah, Officer Reyes said after a moment, her voice professionally neutral, can you tell us more about this basement room? The boy stared at his hands. It's small, he said finally. There's a mattress on the floor and a bucket in the corner if I need to. You know. He glanced up briefly, his cheeks flushed with embarrassment. The door locks from the outside. There's no light switch inside. Mark felt something cold settle in his stomach. He'd known from the note that things were bad, but hearing Noah describe the room made the reality of it more visceral. How long do they leave you in there? Officer Reyes asked. It depends, Noah said. Sometimes just a night. Last weekend it was from Friday after school until Sunday morning because I asked when I could visit my mom. Principal Warren made a small sound of distress but quickly composed herself. Officer Mendez continued taking notes, his expression carefully controlled. And you mentioned not eating for 2 days, Officer Reyes said. Can you tell us more about that? Noah's fingers worked anxiously at a loose thread on his sweater. Mrs. Caldwell says food is a privilege, not a right. If I make mistakes or ask too many questions, I don't get dinner. Sometimes breakfast too. What about at school? Principal Warren interjected. You've been eating lunch here, haven't you? Noah nodded. Most days. But sometimes they pack lunches that look really nice from the outside, with notes and everything. But inside there's just a slice of bread or something. The calculated nature of this deception, packing sham lunches that would appear normal to teachers and cafeteria staff, sent a chill through Mark. These weren't impulsive acts of frustration. This was systematic abuse designed to remain hidden. Noah, Officer Mendez said, You wrote that Mr. Caldwell hurts you but not where people can see. Can you explain what you mean? At this, Noah's composure finally cracked. His lower lip trembled, and tears welled in his eyes. He uses his belt sometimes, he whispered. On my back or here. He gestured vaguely to his upper thighs. And he twists my arms behind my back if I don't move fast enough. Mark fought to maintain his own composure. He'd suspected physical abuse from the note, but hearing the details made him want to find Gregory Caldwell immediately. Officer Reyes leaned forward. Noah, would you be willing to let a doctor check you? They could document any injuries, which would help us make sure you don't have to go back to the Caldwells. Noah looked panicked. Right now. It would be best, Officer Mendez confirmed. We'll need to take some photographs too, but a female officer will be present the whole time, and you can have Mr. Hunter wait nearby if you'd like. Noah looked at Mark, his expression so vulnerable that Mark felt his heart constrict. Will you come? The boy asked. Of course, Mark said without hesitation. I'll be there as long as you need me. Officer Reyes stood. We should get going then. I'll call ahead to the hospital. Principal Warren, we'll need the contact information for Noah's social worker and his file. As Principal Warren moved to her computer, Mark noticed Noah had begun to tremble slightly. What if they come to the school looking for me? He asked, his voice tight with fear. The Caldwells, Officer Mendez clarified. Noah nodded. They won't find you, Officer Reyes assured him. We're going to make sure you're safe. But the boy didn't look convinced. Mark could see the scenario playing out in his mind. The Caldwells arriving at the school, presenting their concerned foster parent facade, perhaps even being allowed to take Noah home where the consequences would be unimaginable. Noah, Mark said quietly, the police won't let that happen, and neither will I. Promise. The word was small, fragile. I promise, Mark replied, with a certainty he hadn't felt about anything in years. Boston Medical Center's Pediatric Emergency Department was quieter than Mark had expected for a Thursday evening. A nurse led them to a private examination room, its walls painted with cheerful underwater scenes that felt jarringly at odds with their purpose for being there. A doctor from our child protection team will be in shortly, the nurse explained, handing Noah a hospital gown. Can you change into this, sweetheart? You can leave your underwear on. As the nurse left, Noah stared at the gown, making no move to change. Mark sensed his discomfort. Would you like me to step out? Mark asked. Noah nodded, his eyes fixed on the floor. I'll be right outside the door, Mark assured him. Just call when you're ready. In the hallway, Mark found Officer Reyes speaking quietly into her phone. She ended the call as he approached. We've contacted Noah's social worker, Jessica Lynn, she informed him. She's on her way. We've also sent officers to the Caldwell residence, but according to neighbors, they haven't returned home yet. Mark nodded, processing this information. What happens next? For Noah, Officer Reyes sighed, and for a moment her professional demeanor slipped, revealing the weight of cases like these. Best case scenario? The doctor documents evidence of abuse, we arrest the Caldwells, and Noah's social worker finds him an emergency placement tonight while the investigation proceeds. And worst case, the physical evidence is inconclusive, the Caldwells deny everything, and the system moves at its typical glacial pace while Noah remains in an unstable situation. Her honesty was refreshing, if disheartening. How likely is the worst case? Mark asked. With the note, Noah's testimony, and any physical evidence we find, I'd say the chances of him returning to the Caldwells tonight are very low. But I've been surprised before, and not in good ways. Mr. Hunter? Noah's small voice called from inside the room. I'm done. Mark re-entered to find Noah perched on the edge of the examination table, the gown making him look even smaller than he was. The boy's clothes were neatly folded on a chair, his blue sneakers placed carefully underneath. You okay? Mark asked. Noah shrugged. I don't like doctors much. Me neither, Mark confided. But this one is going to help make sure you're safe. As if on cue, there was a knock and a woman entered. She appeared to be in her late 40s, with cropped silver hair and kind eyes behind stylish glasses. The following morning arrived with the soft persistence of early autumn sunshine filtering through unfamiliar curtains. Olivia blinked awake on Jessica Mill's living room couch, momentarily disoriented by the elegant surroundings that contrasted sharply with her own cramped apartment. The events of the previous day came rushing back. The twins locked in the closet, Noah's bruises, the police officer's grave expressions, the hospital examination, and finally, Jessica's insistence that Olivia stay the night. Just until things settle, Jessica had pleaded around midnight, her eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. The kids trust you. I trust you. And honestly, I don't think I can handle being alone right now. Olivia had agreed, sending a quick text to her roommate Zoe explaining the situation before settling onto the couch with a borrowed blanket and pillow. Now, in the quiet of early morning, she checked her phone to find 3 missed calls from her mother and a text from Zoe asking if she was okay. Before she could respond, the sound of small feet padding down the hallway caught her attention. Emma appeared in the living room doorway, her blonde hair a tousled cloud around her face, clutching a worn stuffed rabbit by one ear. She regarded Olivia with cautious surprise. "You're still here," she said, her voice carrying equal measures of wonder and relief. Olivia smiled, sitting up and patting the couch beside her. "I am. Your mom asked me to stay overnight. Is that okay with you?" Emma nodded, crossing the room to perch carefully on the edge of the sofa, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. "Is Richard coming back?" she asked, her voice suddenly smaller. "No," Olivia said firmly. "The police are making sure he stays away." Emma studied Olivia's face, as if searching for signs of deception. Finding none, her small shoulders relaxed slightly. Noah had bad dreams. He was crying but trying to be quiet so no one would hear. The casual way she delivered this information, as if her brother's silent suffering were perfectly normal, made Olivia's heart ache. "It's okay for Noah to cry if he's upset or scared," she said gently. "It's okay for you to cry too." Emma considered this novel concept. "Richard said crying is for babies." "Richard was wrong about a lot of things," Olivia replied, careful to keep her tone neutral despite the anger flaring inside her. "Everyone cries sometimes, grown-ups too. It's just how our bodies let out big feelings. Even your mom." Emma digested this information, absently stroking her rabbit's ear. "Mom cried a lot after Dad left. That's when Richard started coming over. He said he'd take care of things so Mom wouldn't cry anymore." "And did your mom stop crying?" Olivia asked, recognizing an opportunity to understand the family dynamic from the child's perspective. "Not really. She just did it in her room with the door closed. But we could still hear." Emma looked up at Olivia with eyes that seemed too knowing for her 7 years. "Are you going to be our new Richard?" The question caught Olivia off guard. "No, sweetie. I'm just your babysitter. I'm here to help look after you when your mom has to work, but I'm not going to live here or be like Richard in any way." Emma nodded, seeming relieved. "Good. I don't want another Richard." The sound of a door opening down the hall interrupted their conversation. Jessica appeared, already dressed in fresh scrubs, her hair damp from a shower. She looked marginally better than the previous night, though the shadows under her eyes suggested sleep had been elusive. "Good morning," she said, surprise flickering across her face at the sight of her daughter sitting with Olivia. "Emma, you're up early." "I heard Noah crying," Emma explained, "and then I wanted to see if Olivia was still here." A flash of concern crossed Jessica's features. "Noah was crying? Is he still upset?" "He had bad dreams," Emma said. "About the closet." Jessica closed her eyes briefly, pain evident in the tight set of her mouth. When she opened them again, she forced a smile. "I'll check on him." "Emma, would you like some breakfast? There's cereal in the pantry." "I can get it," Olivia offered, standing. "Why don't you go see Noah?" Relief and gratitude mingled in Jessica's expression. "Thank you. I've got to leave for work in about 20 minutes. The detective is coming back at 9 to take more detailed statements from the kids, and the social worker will be here at 10. She hesitated. I know it's asking a lot, but could you possibly stay with them until I get home at 3? I called the hospital, but they can't give me the day off on such short notice. We're critically understaffed, and I've already taken so much time off recently for the move. The worry in Jessica's voice was palpable. She was clearly torn between her professional obligations and her children's needs. A dilemma Olivia had seen many working parents struggle with during her psychology internships. Of course I'll stay, Olivia assured her. The kids and I will be fine, and I'll take notes on what the detective and social worker say, so you're up to speed when you get home. The tension in Jessica's shoulders eased visibly. You're a lifesaver. Literally. She pulled a set of keys from her pocket and handed them to Olivia. House key and car key, in case you need to take the kids somewhere. My number's on the fridge. And I've left money for lunch or whatever you need. As Jessica disappeared down the hall to check on Noah, Olivia led Emma to the kitchen. The clinical sparseness that had struck her the previous day seemed even more pronounced in the morning light. The refrigerator door, barren of the children's artwork or family photos that typically adorned such spaces, stood as a sterile testament to the controlled environment Richard had apparently enforced. What kind of cereal do you like? Olivia asked, opening the pantry to find a surprisingly limited selection, plain cornflakes and an off-brand brand cereal. We usually have cornflakes, Emma said, climbing onto a stool at the island counter. Richard says sugary cereal makes us hyper. Olivia bit back a comment about Richard's controlling behavior and instead asked, what would you like if you could choose any cereal in the world? Emma's eyes widened at the hypothetical freedom. Lucky Charms, she said without hesitation. The one with all the marshmallows. That's a solid choice. Olivia nodded approvingly as she poured cornflakes into a bowl. I was always a Fruity Pebbles kid myself. Dad used to let us have Fruit Loops on Saturdays, Emma volunteered, accepting the cereal Olivia placed before her. But only on Saturdays. Mom said one day of sugar was enough. The casual mention of her father sparked Olivia's curiosity. Do you see your dad often? She asked, keeping her tone conversational as she poured a second bowl for Noah. Emma shook her head, a shadow crossing her young face. He moved to California. That's really far. He calls us sometimes on Mom's phone, but not very much anymore. I see, Olivia said neutrally, filing away this information. The family dynamic was growing clearer. A recent divorce, a mother working long hours to make ends meet, an absent father, and the introduction of a controlling boyfriend who had taken advantage of the situation. It was, sadly, not an uncommon scenario in homes where abuse occurred. The sound of voices in the hallway announced Jessica and Noah's arrival. The boy looked smaller somehow in the daylight, his blue eyes rimmed with red from crying, his thin shoulders hunched beneath his pajama top. He hesitated at the sight of Olivia, uncertainty plain on his face. Look who's still here, Jessica said with forced cheerfulness, her hand on Noah's shoulder. Olivia stayed overnight, and she's going to stay with you today while I'm at work. Isn't that nice? Noah studied Olivia warily. Are you going to tell the police more things about us? He asked. The police just want to understand what happened, so they can help make sure you and Emma are safe, Olivia explained, setting his cereal on the counter. They're not looking to get you in trouble. Noah climbed onto the stool beside his sister but made no move to touch his breakfast. Richard said if we ever told anyone about the closet, we'd be in big trouble. That people would think we were bad kids and take us away. Jessica knelt beside her son, taking his small hands in hers. Noah, listen to me. What Richard did was wrong. Grown-ups should never hurt children or lock them up or make them feel afraid. That's not how we treat people we care about. Her voice wavered, but she continued, you and Emma are good kids, the best kids, and no one is taking you anywhere. Noah's eyes filled with fresh tears. But Richard lied, Jessica said firmly, about a lot of things. And I'm so sorry I didn't realize what was happening. But I promise you, things are going to be different now. The earnestness in Jessica's voice seemed to reach her son. He nodded slightly, then picked up his spoon and began to eat his cereal. Jessica stood, checking her watch with a grimace. "I've got to go or I'll be late. Detective Wilson will be here at 9, and Ms. Patel from Child Protective Services at 10. Olivia has my number if you need anything at all." She kissed each twin on the forehead, then looked at Olivia with gratitude and something like desperation in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." After Jessica left, Olivia helped the twins get dressed for the day. Their bedroom, which had seemed so oppressive the evening before, looked almost cheerful in the morning light. Two identical twin beds with navy blue comforters, a bookshelf filled with children's literature, and a toy chest that, when opened, revealed a surprisingly meager collection of toys. "Don't you have any other toys?" Olivia asked, noticing that most of what was there seemed educational in nature: puzzles, building blocks, a few board games. "We used to," Noah said, pulling on a green t-shirt, "but Richard said they were taking up too much space. He put a lot of them in the basement." "Can we go get them?" Emma asked hopefully. "Now that Richard's gone?" Olivia smiled. "I don't see why not. Let's have a toy rescue mission after breakfast." The twins' faces lit up at this suggestion, the first genuine excitement Olivia had seen from them. As they finished getting ready, she texted Zoe to assure her she was fine, then called her mother to explain that she'd taken on a babysitting job that had unexpectedly turned into an overnight stay. "It's a bit complicated," she told her mother, stepping into the hallway while the twins brushed their teeth. "The kids are going through a tough time, and I'm helping out. Is this a normal babysitting job, or are you finally using that psychology degree?" her mother asked with her characteristic directness. Olivia hesitated. "It's somewhere in between, I guess. The mom's ex-boyfriend was abusive to the kids, and it just came to light yesterday when I arrived. I found them locked in a closet." Her mother's sharp intake of breath was audible. "That's terrible. Are the police involved?" "Yes, they're coming back today for more detailed statements. And Child Protective Services." "And you're staying to help? That's not really your responsibility, Liv." "I know," Olivia acknowledged. "But I'm already here, I have the training, and the kids seem to trust me. Feels like the right thing to do." Her mother was quiet for a moment. "Well, you always did have good instincts about people. Just be careful not to get too emotionally involved. These situations can be complicated." "I'll be careful," Olivia promised, though she suspected it might already be too late for such caution. The twins' vulnerability had awakened something fierce and protective in her. After breakfast, as promised, they ventured into the basement to recover the exiled toys. The space was immaculately organized, labeled bins stacked precisely on metal shelving units. One entire section was marked "Kids," in Richard's precise handwriting. "He put everything in boxes," Emma explained, pointing to the shelving unit. "He said it was too cluttered upstairs." Olivia helped the children open the bins, which revealed a treasure trove of normal childhood possessions: stuffed animals, action figures, art supplies, dress-up clothes, and several containers of colorful plastic building bricks. The twins' excitement was palpable as they rediscovered beloved items that had been taken from them. "Mom gave me this for Christmas," Noah exclaimed, holding up a detailed model of a space shuttle. "I thought Richard threw it away. And here's my Dr. Kit," Emma added, pulling out a plastic medical case with equal enthusiasm. Watching them, Olivia felt a renewed surge of anger toward Richard Coleman. What kind of person systematically stripped children of their toys and normal childhood pleasures? The controlling behavior evident in this basement, the meticulous organization, the labeling, the containment of anything messy or childlike, spoke volumes about the man's need for dominance and order. They carried several boxes upstairs, and soon the living room was transformed into a play area, with toys spread across the previously pristine carpet. The twins became absorbed in their rediscovered possessions, the shadows in their eyes temporarily eclipsed by the simple joy of play. At 9 o'clock precisely, the doorbell rang. Detective Lauren Wilson stood on the doorstep, her expression professional but kind. Behind her was a man who introduced himself as Dr. Thomas Reynolds, a child psychologist who specialized in forensic interviews. "We'd like to speak with the children separately," Detective Wilson explained to Olivia after they'd settled in the living room. It's standard procedure in cases like this. We find that siblings sometimes have different perspectives or remember different details. Olivia nodded, though she noted the twins exchanging anxious glances at the prospect of separation. Would it be all right if I stay with each of them during their interviews? They're still a bit nervous about everything. Detective Wilson considered this request. You're not a family member or legal guardian, so normally we wouldn't allow it. But given the circumstances and your background in child psychology, I think we can make an exception if the children want you there. Both Emma and Noah immediately nodded their agreement to Olivia's presence. The interviews were conducted in the dining room, one child at a time, while the other remained in the living room with Dr. Reynolds. Detective Wilson's questioning was gentle but thorough, designed to elicit details without leading the children or causing further trauma. Emma went first, her small hand gripping Olivia's tightly as she described how Richard's rules had gradually increased after he started staying overnight. How he'd first instituted timeouts in the bedroom for minor infractions, then progressed to locking them in the closet when Jessica wasn't home. It started after Mom's birthday, Emma explained, her voice steady despite the distressing content. Noah spilled juice on Richard's phone. Richard got really mad. He said we needed to learn about consequences. Did your mother know about these consequences? Detective Wilson asked gently. Emma shook her head. Richard said it would make Mom sad if she knew we were bad, that she was already stressed because of work and money and Dad leaving. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He said she might decide we were too much trouble, like Dad did. The implication that their father had abandoned them because they were too much trouble was clearly another of Richard's manipulative tactics, Olivia realized. A way to isolate the children and prevent them from seeking help, while simultaneously undermining their relationship with both parents. Noah's interview revealed similar patterns of control and emotional abuse, along with concerning instances of physical intimidation. He described being pushed against walls, having his arms squeezed until it felt like it would break, and once being forced to stand in the corner for hours because he'd failed to put his shoes away properly. Did your mom ever see Richard hurting you? Detective Wilson asked. Noah shook his head. He was different when Mom was home. He'd just give us the look that meant we'd be in trouble later. By the time both interviews were completed, Olivia felt emotionally drained. The calculated nature of Richard's abuse, the way he'd systematically isolated the children, undermined their trust in their parents, and terrorized them into silence, was chilling in its deliberateness. As Detective Wilson packed up her notes, she pulled Olivia aside. You've done a good job with them, she said quietly. They trust you, which is significant given what they've been through. What happens now? Olivia asked. We're building a case against Coleman. These interviews, combined with the medical evidence and the previous complaint from his ex's daughter, should be enough for charges. But it's going to take time. The detective's expression was grave. The bigger concern right now is ensuring the children's ongoing safety and beginning their recovery process. Their mother seems committed to protecting them now that she knows what's been happening, Olivia observed. Detective Wilson nodded. That's my impression as well. But Child Protective Services will make their own assessment. Ms. Patel will be here soon to evaluate the home situation. After the detective and Dr. Reynolds departed, Olivia made the twins lunch, simple peanut butter and jelly sandwiches that they devoured as if starving. She wondered when they'd last been properly fed. Richard's control had apparently extended to food as well, with his rules about crumbs and messes likely limiting the children's access to regular meals when their mother wasn't present. You make better sandwiches than Richard, Noah commented as he finished his second helping. He always gave us those gross protein bars instead. He said they were more efficient. And less messy, Emma added, carefully wiping a spot of jelly from the counter. The doorbell rang again at precisely 10 o'clock. Ms. Patel from Child Protective Services was a small, efficient woman with kind eyes behind stylish glasses. She introduced herself to the twins warmly before asking to speak with Olivia privately. You're not a relative? She clarified as they stood in the kitchen, out of earshot of the children. No, I was hired as a babysitter. Yesterday was supposed to be my first day, but I arrived to find the children locked in the closet. Their mother had no knowledge of the abuse. Ms. Patel made notes on her tablet. And you have a background in child psychology, Detective Wilson mentioned? Yes, I graduated from Boston University 6 months ago. I've been looking for a position in the field while taking continuing education courses. The detective was impressed by your rapport with the children, Ms. Patel observed. She said you remained calm and supportive throughout what must have been a very unexpected and disturbing situation. Olivia wasn't sure how to respond to this praise. I just did what seemed right. The kids needed someone to listen and believe them. Ms. Patel nodded approvingly. That's precisely what children in these situations need most. She glanced toward the living room, where Emma and Noah were quietly playing with their newly recovered toys. Would you mind if I speak with them now? I'd like to get a sense of their home life beyond the immediate situation with Mr. Coleman. Olivia accompanied Ms. Patel to the living room, where the social worker engaged the twins in a series of questions disguised as casual conversation. She asked about their school, their friends, their daily routines, their relationship with their mother and father. Unlike the detective's focused questioning about Richard, Ms. Patel's approach was holistic, designed to evaluate the overall family dynamic. What emerged was a picture of a once stable home disrupted by divorce, financial strain, and their mother's increased work hours, creating the vulnerability that Richard had exploited. But it was also clear that Jessica Mills genuinely loved her children and had been horrified to discover the abuse. Mom cries when she thinks we're asleep, Emma confided at one point. She works really hard. Richard said we should be quiet and good so we didn't make things harder for her. And did that work? Miss Patel asked gently. Did being quiet and good make things easier for your mom? Emma considered this. I don't think so. She still looked tired all the time. And sad. After spending nearly 2 hours with the family, Miss Patel pulled Olivia aside again. Based on my initial assessment, I don't see any reason to recommend removal of the children from the home, she said in a low voice. Ms. Mills appears to be a caring mother who is unaware of her boyfriend's behavior. The children show appropriate attachment to her and speak of her positively. Relief washed over Olivia. That's good news. However, Ms. Patel continued, I will be recommending family therapy and regular check-ins from our department. The children have experienced trauma that needs addressing, and Ms. Mills will need support in rebuilding their sense of security. She paused, studying Olivia thoughtfully. Would you be open to continuing your involvement with the family? The children clearly trust you, which is significant given their recent experiences with adults. I've already agreed to continue as their babysitter, Olivia confirmed. Jessica, Ms. Mills, works long hours so they'll need regular care. Excellent. Consistency is crucial for children recovering from trauma. Ms. Patel handed Olivia her card. Please call me if you have any concerns or questions. I'll be checking in regularly, but you'll likely notice things in day-to-day interactions that we might miss in formal visits. After Ms. Patel left, the emotional toll of the morning caught up with the twins. Noah became clingy and irritable, while Emma grew unnaturally quiet, her earlier animation fading into watchful stillness. Recognizing the signs of stress, Olivia suggested they build a blanket fort in the living room. A safe, enclosed space of their own making, unlike the closet that had been their prison. The activity proved therapeutic. Soon, the formal living room was transformed by sheets draped over furniture, cushions arranged as walls, and soft blankets creating a cozy floor. Inside their creation, the twins gradually relaxed, their shoulders loosening, their voices growing more animated as they arranged pillows and stuffed animals within their fabric castle. Richard would hate this, Noah observed, a hint of defiance in his voice as he surveyed their gloriously messy construction. He said forts were for babies. Well, I think forts are for everyone, Olivia replied, crawling inside to join them. Even grown-ups need safe spaces sometimes. They spent the afternoon reading books inside the fort, Olivia taking turns with each twin, helping with challenging words. She noticed that their book collection, unlike their toys, seemed to have escaped Richard's purge. Perhaps because books, being contained on shelves, satisfied his need for order. Jessica returned home precisely at 3, looking exhausted but less fragile than the previous day. She paused in the doorway of the living room, taking in the blanket fort that now dominated the space, her expression unreadable. "Mom!" Emma called, poking her head out of the fort's entrance. "We made a castle. Come see." For a moment, Olivia feared Jessica might object to the disruption of her orderly home. But then a smile broke across the mother's tired face, and she kicked off her shoes to crawl into the fort with her children. "It's magnificent," she declared, settling between the twins as they eagerly showed her the rooms they'd created within the structure. "Much nicer than my apartment in nursing school." The casual joke, the physical ease with which Jessica gathered her children close, spoke volumes about the genuine love that existed in this family despite the recent trauma. Watching them together, Olivia felt a surge of hope that with proper support, the Mills family could recover from Richard's destructive influence. Eventually, Jessica emerged from the fort and joined Olivia in the kitchen, where Olivia had started preparing a simple dinner from the limited ingredients available in the refrigerator. "Detective Wilson called me at work," Jessica said, leaning against the counter. "She said they've officially charged Richard with child endangerment and assault. There's a hearing tomorrow about extending the emergency restraining order." "That's good," Olivia said, continuing to chop vegetables for a stir-fry. "Did she mention the previous complaint against him?" Jessica nodded, her expression darkening. "From his ex-girlfriend's daughter in Connecticut. The case was dropped when they moved out of state, but the record exists. It shows a pattern." She wrapped her arms around herself as if suddenly cold. "How did I miss it? All these months, he was hurting my babies, and I had no idea." "He was careful," Olivia said gently. "Abusers usually are. They isolate their victims, create an environment of fear, and present a completely different face to the outside world." "But I'm their mother," Jessica whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "I should have known." Emma and Noah were changing, becoming quieter, more anxious, but I thought it was just adjustment to the divorce, to moving to a new place. "I never imagined." She trailed off, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. "You know now," Olivia pointed out, "and you're taking action to protect them. That's what matters going forward." Jessica managed a watery smile. "The social worker said you've been amazing with them, that having someone they trust is crucial right now." "They're resilient kids," Olivia said, "and they love you very much. They've been worried about making things harder for you, about being too much trouble." Jessica's face crumpled at this. Richard told them they were burdens, that they were the reason Tom, their father, left. It wasn't true. Tom and I had problems for years before we finally split. "Children often blame themselves for divorce," Olivia said, drawing on her training. "Richard exploited that natural vulnerability." "Ms. Patel recommended family therapy," Jessica said, straightening her shoulders with new resolve. "And I need to make some changes at work. I've been taking every shift offered because we needed the money after the divorce, but the kids need me home more." "That sounds like a good plan," Olivia agreed. "And I'm happy to continue babysitting on a regular schedule, if that would help." Relief flooded Jessica's face. "Would you? I know this isn't what you signed up for, but the kids adore you already. And frankly, I could use the support of someone who understands what we're going through." "I'd be glad to," Olivia said sincerely. "Actually, I've been thinking, I had 2 interviews next week for counseling positions, but I could reschedule them if you need me here during the day." Jessica looked stricken. "Oh God, I didn't even think. You're looking for full-time work in your field, not just babysitting gigs. I can't ask you to put your career on hold for us." "You're not asking. I'm offering," Olivia clarified. "The job market isn't exactly booming for recent psychology graduates. The interviews can wait a week or 2 while things stabilize here." Jessica still seemed uncertain. "At least let me pay you properly. Not just babysitting rates, but what you'd make as a counselor." "That's really not necessary." "It is to me," Jessica insisted. "My children's well-being is worth every penny." She hesitated, then added, And maybe we could call it something other than babysitting. Given your background and what you're actually doing here, maybe family support specialist or something like that. Olivia smiled at the suggested title upgrade. That works for me. Their conversation was interrupted by the twins calling from the living room. Proud to show off a new wing they'd added to their blanket fort. As Jessica went to admire their creation, Olivia continued preparing dinner, reflecting on the unexpected turn her life had taken in just 24 hours. When she'd arrived at the Mills house yesterday, she'd been a recent graduate struggling to launch her career, taking babysitting jobs to make ends meet while sending out endless resumes. Now she found herself in the midst of a family crisis, using her training in a way she'd never anticipated, forming connections that already felt surprisingly deep. Her mother's warning about getting emotionally involved echoed in her mind. There was undeniable risk in becoming attached to this vulnerable family, in taking on their trauma and their healing as personal concerns. The professional distance she'd been taught to maintain in her psychology courses seemed impossible in this intimate setting, where she'd already held Emma's hand through difficult questioning and helped Noah build a safe space after his imprisonment in the closet. But as she watched Jessica laughing with her children in their makeshift castle, Olivia felt certain that despite the unconventional circumstances, she was exactly where she needed to be. Some connections, she was beginning to understand, were worth the risk of heartbreak. Dinner that evening was a simple affair, chicken stir-fry over rice, but the mood around the table was lighter than Olivia would have expected given the traumatic events of the past 2 days. The twins talked animatedly about their recovered toys and the books they'd read in the fort, their natural childish resilience asserting itself now that the immediate threat of Richard had been removed. Jessica, too, seemed more present than she had the previous evening, asking questions about their day and genuinely listening to their answers. Watching her, Olivia could see the caring mother beneath the exhaustion and guilt, the woman who had been trying her best to rebuild a life for her family after divorce, unaware of the predator she'd unwittingly invited into their home. After dinner, as Jessica supervised the twins' bath time, Olivia checked her phone to find a text from her roommate Zoe. "Still alive? Your mom called me looking for you. Said something about abused kids? What exactly have you gotten yourself into?" Olivia smiled ruefully and replied, "It's complicated. Found kids locked in closet on what was supposed to be routine babysitting job. Now somehow I'm a family support specialist for traumatized twins and their mom. Coming home tonight, but we'll explain everything tomorrow." Zoe's response was immediate. "Only you would turn a babysitting gig into a social work career in 24 hours. Can't wait to hear this story. Wine will be waiting." As Olivia was gathering her things to leave, Noah appeared in the living room doorway in Spider-Man pajamas, his hair damp from his bath, his expression uncertain. "Are you going away now?" he asked, a tremor in his voice. Olivia knelt to his eye level. "I'm going to my own home to sleep, but I'll be back tomorrow morning to help while your mom is at work. Promise?" he pressed, his blue eyes serious. "I promise," Olivia assured him. "Actually, your mom and I were talking about me coming regularly to help out. Would that be okay with you?" Noah's face lit up. "Really? Every day?" "Most days, yes. When your mom needs to work." The boy seemed to consider this arrangement carefully. "Will you lock us in the closet if we're bad?" The question, delivered in such a matter-of-fact tone, made Olivia's throat tighten with emotion. "No, Noah. I will never lock you in the closet. What Richard did was wrong. No one should ever treat children that way, no matter what." Noah nodded, absorbing this information. "Richard said grown-ups have to make children behave. That it was for our own good. There are many ways to help children learn appropriate behavior," Olivia explained, drawing on her training. "Talking about feelings, setting clear expectations, using natural consequences. Like if you don't put a toy away, you might not have time to play with a different toy. But punishment should never involve being locked up or hurt. Like in the fort today," Noah said, making a connection. "We made a mess, but it was okay because we cleaned it up after." "Exactly," Olivia smiled, impressed by his insight. "Actions have consequences, but they should be reasonable and related to what happened." Noah considered this new paradigm, then asked, Can we build another fort tomorrow? I think that could be arranged, Olivia agreed, touched by his ability to look forward with excitement despite everything he'd been through. Emma appeared in the doorway beside her brother, already in her nightgown, her damp hair in a neat braid that Jessica must have done. Mom says to tell you good night and thank you, she reported. She's on the phone with someone named Lauren about the hearing tomorrow. Detective Wilson, Olivia explained. She's helping make sure Richard stays away from you. Emma nodded solemnly. Mom says we might have to talk to a judge someday about what Richard did. But not right away. That's right, Olivia confirmed. And if that happens, there will be lots of people to help you through it. You won't have to do it alone. Both children digested this information. Then Emma asked, will you read us a story before you go? Mom usually does, but she's still on the phone. Olivia checked her watch. It was getting late, and she had promised Zoe she'd be home tonight. But the hopeful expressions on the twins' faces made it impossible to refuse. One story, she agreed. Then I really need to get going. The children led her to their bedroom, where Jessica had apparently removed the door to the closet. A small but significant gesture that spoke volumes about her commitment to her children's recovery. They settled on Emma's bed, a twin on either side of Olivia, as she read a chapter from a book about a mouse with unusual adventures. By the time she finished, both children were drooping with exhaustion, the emotional toll of the past 2 days finally catching up with them. Olivia helped them into their respective beds, making sure each had their favorite stuffed animal. Olivia, Emma murmured sleepily as Olivia tucked the blanket around her. I'm glad you came early yesterday. The simple statement carried such enormous weight. If Olivia had arrived at the scheduled time, Richard might have returned. The children might have been released. The simple statement carried such enormous weight. If Olivia had arrived at the scheduled time, Richard might have returned. The children might have been released from their prison only to continue suffering in silence, their abuse still hidden behind the pristine walls of the townhouse. I'm glad too, Olivia said softly, smoothing Emma's hair away from her forehead. Get some sleep now. I'll see you in the morning. As she turned off the bedroom light, leaving only a small nightlight glowing in the corner, Olivia felt the enormity of the responsibility she'd taken on. These children were trusting her with their safety, their recovery, their belief that adults could be kind instead of cruel. It was a trust she was determined not to betray. Jessica was just ending her call when Olivia came downstairs. She looked drained but resolute, the phone clutched tightly in her hand. The hearing is at 10 tomorrow, she said. Richard's lawyer is fighting the restraining order, claiming the children are manipulating the situation and that I'm trying to frame him because our relationship was ending. Olivia felt a flash of indignation. That's absurd. The medical evidence alone. I know, Jessica sighed. Detective Wilson says it's a common tactic. Make the victims seem unreliable, especially when they're children. She set the phone down with deliberate care. She also said I need to prepare myself for the possibility that he'll try to contact me directly, to manipulate me emotionally or try to convince me that it's all a misunderstanding. Would that work? Olivia asked carefully, studying Jessica's face. Do you have any doubts about what happened? Jessica's expression hardened. None. I've spent the last 24 hours replaying every interaction, every moment since Richard came into our lives. The signs were there, I just didn't want to see them. The way the kids would tense up when he entered a room. The way they stopped talking freely, stopped laughing. Their sudden obsession with keeping everything neat. Her voice broke slightly. I thought they were finally adjusting to the divorce, to our new life here. Instead, they were being terrorized in their own home while I was working double shifts to pay the mortgage. The self-recrimination in her voice was painful to hear. You couldn't have known, Olivia said gently. Richard was manipulating all of you. Jessica nodded, though guilt still clouded her eyes. The twins said you read them a story. Thank you for that. For everything, really. I don't know what we would have done if you hadn't found them when you did. I'm just glad I was able to help, Olivia said sincerely. And I'll be back tomorrow at 8 as we discussed. Perfect. I should be home by 3 again. Jessica walked her to the door, then hesitated. Olivia, Do you think they'll be okay? Long term, will they recover from this? It was the question of a mother desperate for reassurance, for some promise that her children hadn't been irreparably damaged on her watch. Olivia chose her words carefully. Children are remarkably resilient, especially when they have consistent support and love. Emma and Noah have that in you. And now they'll have proper therapeutic support too. She paused, then added, the fact that they were able to build that fort today, to play and laugh again so soon after everything that happened, that's a very positive sign. They feel safe with you. That's the foundation of recovery. Relief softened Jessica's tired features. Thank you. Not just for the reassurance, but for seeing us, really seeing us, for who we are, not just what happened to us. As Olivia drove home through the quiet streets of Brookline, those words echoed in her mind. For someone who had spent years studying child psychology, understanding the theoretical frameworks of trauma and recovery, this was her first real test, seeing beyond the clinical case to the human beings struggling to heal. The textbooks hadn't prepared her for the raw emotion of holding a child's hand through a police interview, or the moral clarity that came with promising a frightened boy that he would never again be locked away for being too loud. By the time she reached her apartment, it was nearly 10 o'clock. Zoe was waiting as promised, 2 glasses of wine on the coffee table and curiosity written all over her face. Okay, spill. Her roommate demanded as Olivia collapsed onto the sofa. Your mom called here 3 times today looking for you. Something about abused children and spending the night at a stranger's house. Olivia took a grateful sip of wine and began recounting the events of the past 36 hours. Arriving early to find the twins locked in the closet, the bruises on Noah's arm, the police investigation, Richard's arrest, and her unexpected new role as family support specialist. Zoe listened with growing astonishment. So let me get this straight, she said when Olivia finished. You went for a babysitting interview and ended up basically rescuing 2 kids from their abusive, almost stepdad, becoming their trauma counselor, and postponing your actual career interviews to help them recover? Put that way, it did sound rather extreme. That's not inaccurate, Olivia admitted. That's the most you thing I've ever heard, Zoe declared, refilling their wine glasses. Only you would turn a side gig into a crusade for justice. It's not a crusade, Olivia protested. It's just the right thing to do. These kids trust me. Their mom is overwhelmed. They need consistent support right now. Zoe's expression softened. I know, and it's admirable. Truly. Just promise me you won't completely lose yourself in this family's drama. You still need to build your own career, your own life. I won't, Olivia promised, though a small voice in her mind whispered that it might already be too late. She was already deeply invested in Emma and Noah's well-being, in Jessica's struggle to rebuild her family's sense of safety. It's temporary, just until things stabilize. Zoe hummed skeptically. Just remember what Professor Harrison always said in ethics class. Boundaries exist to protect both the client and the counselor. Olivia nodded, though the line between professional and personal already felt blurred beyond recognition in this situation. She wasn't the Mills family's therapist or social worker. She was their babysitter, their advocate, their support person, roles that didn't come with the clear ethical guidelines of a formal counseling relationship. Enough about my drama, she said, changing the subject. How was your day? Any luck with the job search? As Zoe launched into a story about her latest interview at a marketing firm, Olivia felt herself relaxing for the first time in 36 hours. Here in her familiar apartment, with her friends' animated chatter and a glass of wine in hand, the crisis at the Mills household seemed almost dreamlike in its intensity. Yet tomorrow morning, she would return to that navy blue townhouse, to the twins with their wary eyes and resilient spirits, to Jessica with her guilt and determination. And somehow, she would help them navigate the long road to healing that stretched before them. Later, lying in her own bed, Olivia found herself thinking of Noah's earnest question. Will you lock us in the closet if we're bad? The casual acceptance in his voice, as if being imprisoned for normal childhood behavior were a reasonable expectation rather than abuse, haunted her. How long would it take for the twins to unlearn the toxic lessons Richard had taught them? How many gentle corrections, How many consistent demonstrations of proper care would be needed to replace their fear with trust? And what of Jessica, working double shifts at the hospital while carrying the crushing guilt of having brought danger into her children's lives? The single mother was fighting battles on multiple fronts: financial strain, the aftermath of divorce, her children's trauma, and now a legal proceeding against her ex-boyfriend. She needed support as much as her children did. Olivia's last thought before drifting into an exhausted sleep was that despite the circumstances, despite the trauma and pain that had brought them together, there was something powerful in the connection forming between her and the Mills family, something that felt, against all odds, like purpose. The next 3 weeks settled into an uneasy rhythm for the Mills family. The emergency restraining order against Richard Coleman was extended for 6 months following the initial hearing, where the judge had been visibly disturbed by the photographs of Noah's bruises and the twins' detailed accounts of being locked in the closet. Richard, through his attorney, continued to deny any wrongdoing, claiming the children were manipulative and that Jessica was using them to punish him for a relationship that had been ending. Classic Darvo tactics. Detective Wilson had explained to Jessica and Olivia after the hearing. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. It's textbook abuser behavior. Jessica had listened with a mixture of horror and enlightenment dawning on her face. He did that to me too, she'd realized aloud. Whenever I questioned why the kids seemed unhappy or afraid, he'd say they were just playing me for attention because they were jealous of our relationship. For Olivia, the days took on a new structure. She arrived at the Mills townhouse at 8 each morning, in time for Jessica to leave for her hospital shift. The twins, initially wary of her departure each day, as if she might disappear like their father had, gradually came to trust in her consistent return. By the second week, they ran to the door when she arrived, eager to show her new drawings or tell her about events at school. Their recovery was neither linear nor simple. Noah still suffered from nightmares, often waking in tears, convinced that Richard had returned to punish him. Emma developed an anxious habit of tidying obsessively, her small hands arranging toys with military precision, unable to relax until everything was perfect. Both children startled at loud noises and grew quiet and withdrawn when unfamiliar men visited the house. The plumber who came to fix a leaking pipe, the delivery man bringing groceries. But there were signs of healing too. The blanket fort in the living room became a permanent fixture, evolving into an ever-changing structure that reflected the twins' growing sense of agency. Within its fabric walls, they played more freely, spoke more openly, sometimes even acting out scenarios where they stood up to mean grown-ups in ways they hadn't been able to with Richard. Dr. Abigail Fletcher, the child psychologist Jessica had found through the family counseling center Olivia recommended, visited the home twice weekly. Her gentle approach, focusing on play therapy and art expression, slowly helped the twins process their trauma. She met with Jessica separately, guiding her through the complex emotions of a parent whose children had been hurt while in her care. "You're making remarkable progress," Dr. Fletcher told Olivia during one of their professional consultations after a therapy session. "Your consistent presence and psychological background have been invaluable to their recovery." "I'm just doing what seems right," Olivia demurred, though the praise from an established psychologist sent a warm glow of professional validation through her. "Don't underestimate your impact," Dr. Fletcher insisted. "Trauma recovery isn't just about formal therapy. It's about rebuilding trust in daily interactions, consistently demonstrating that adults can be safe and reliable. You're doing that crucial groundwork." October slipped into November, the Boston autumn painting Brookline in vibrant reds and golds. The Mills townhouse gradually transformed from the sterile showcase it had been under Richard's influence to a home where children actually lived. Artwork appeared on the refrigerator door, held by colorful magnets. Toys mingled with books on living room shelves. The twins' bedroom door remained perpetually open, by mutual if unspoken agreement. Jessica reduced her hours at the hospital, negotiating a more family-friendly schedule that allowed her to be home for dinner most evenings. The financial strain this created was evident in her furrowed brow as she reviewed bills at the kitchen table after the children were asleep, but she never wavered in her commitment to being more present. "They need me more than we need the overtime," she told Olivia simply when questioned about the change. On a crisp Tuesday in mid-November, Olivia arrived to find Jessica already dressed for work but standing in the kitchen with an official-looking letter in her hand, her face pale with anxiety. "What's wrong?" Olivia asked, setting down her backpack filled with art supplies for a project she'd planned with the twins that afternoon. "Richard's attorney has filed a motion to dismiss the restraining order," Jessica said, her voice tight. "They're claiming the alleged incidents were exaggerated, and that Richard poses no danger to the children." Olivia felt her stomach knot. "On what grounds?" "There's medical evidence, consistent testimony from the twins, the previous complaint in Connecticut. Apparently, he has character witnesses willing to testify about what a wonderful, caring person he is," Jessica said bitterly. "Former colleagues, friends, even his mother. And he's obtained records showing he completed an anger management course years ago, which his lawyer is presenting as evidence of his commitment to personal growth." "When is the hearing?" "Next Monday. Lauren, Detective Wilson, says we shouldn't worry. The evidence against him is strong." "But—" Jessica trailed off, her fingers worrying the edge of the letter. "But you're still concerned," Olivia finished for her. Jessica nodded, her eyes revealing the fear she was trying to hide. "He's charming, Olivia. Incredibly persuasive. It's how he got past my defenses in the first place. If he can convince a judge that this was all some misunderstanding, that the kids are confused or I'm vindictive." She couldn't finish the thought. Olivia placed a reassuring hand on Jessica's arm. "That won't happen. The twins' accounts have been consistent. Dr. Fletcher's assessment supports their testimony. And Detective Wilson knows exactly what Richard is trying to do." Jessica managed a weak smile. "You're right. I know you're right. I just can't help worrying." She glanced at her watch and sighed. "I need to get going or I'll be late. The kids are almost ready for school." Noah's just finishing his toast. As Jessica gathered her things, she paused at the door. "Oh, I almost forgot. Tom called last night, the twins' father. He's flying in from California this weekend. Apparently, his mother told him about what happened with Richard. He wants to see the kids." This was unexpected news. In the weeks Olivia had been working with the family, Tom Mills had been a notably absent figure, calling his children only sporadically. "How do you feel about that?" she asked carefully. Jessica's expression was complex, resignation mixed with lingering hurt. "Honestly, part of me wants to tell him it's too little, too late. He's barely been in touch since the divorce, and now suddenly he's concerned." She sighed. "But the kids miss him, and they need all the support they can get right now. So he's coming Saturday afternoon. I told him he could take them to the park or for ice cream. Will you be there?" "No. As much as I'd like to supervise, Dr. Fletcher thinks it's important the twins have unfiltered time with their father. She says it might help them understand that his leaving wasn't about them, despite what Richard told them." Jessica's mouth twisted wryly. "Plus, Tom and I can barely have a civil conversation. Better for the kids if we're not together." After Jessica left, Olivia helped the twins finish getting ready for school. Both attended Brookline Elementary, just a 10-minute walk from the townhouse. Emma, in second grade, was conscientious about making sure her homework was properly filed in her folder. Noah, in the same grade but a different classroom, was more haphazard, requiring Olivia's gentle reminders to pack his lunch and reading book. "Dad's coming on Saturday," Emma announced as she tied her shoes, her tone carefully neutral. "Mom says we're going to the park with him." "I heard," Olivia replied, helping Noah zip his jacket. "Are you excited to see him?" The twins exchanged one of their silent communications. "I guess," Emma said finally. "He hasn't visited since summer. He lives really far away," Noah added, though his voice lacked conviction. "In California. That's why he doesn't come a lot." "Well, I'm sure he's looking forward to seeing you both," Olivia said, choosing her words carefully. Dr. Fletcher had emphasized the importance of supporting the twins' relationship with their father without creating unrealistic expectations. As they walked to school, Emma's small hand tucked securely in Olivia's, Noah running slightly ahead then waiting at each corner. Olivia found herself thinking about the upcoming visit from Tom Mills. What kind of man abandoned his children after divorce, maintaining only minimal contact as they adjusted to a new life? What kind of father was so disconnected that he hadn't realized his ex-wife was dating someone who would abuse his children? Yet she reminded herself not to judge too harshly without knowing the full story. Divorce was complicated, often ugly, and people made mistakes, became overwhelmed by their own pain, sometimes failed those who needed them most. The important thing was that Tom was making an effort now, however belated. The school day passed quickly. Olivia used the hours to catch up on reading for her continuing education course and to prepare materials for the twins' afternoon art project. A feelings collage suggested by Dr. Fletcher, using magazine cutouts to help the children express emotions they might struggle to verbalize. When she picked up the twins at 3 o'clock, Emma was quieter than usual, her small face pinched with worry. Noah, by contrast, seemed agitated, talking rapidly about nothing in particular as they walked home. "Is everything okay, Emma?" Olivia asked gently as they turned onto their street. The little girl hesitated, then said in a small voice, "Lily Anderson said her mom told her that Richard is a bad man who hurt us. She asked if we got beaten up." Olivia's heart sank. Of course news would spread in a close-knit community like Brookline. Of course there would be gossip, speculation, children repeating fragments of adult conversations. "What did you tell her?" she asked, keeping her tone casual. "I said it wasn't her business," Emma replied, a hint of defiance in her voice. Then the teacher made Lily apologize for asking personal questions. "That was a good response," Olivia said approvingly. "You don't have to talk about private family matters with anyone if you don't want to. But everyone's going to know, aren't they?" Emma pressed, wisdom beyond her years in her troubled eyes. "About the closet and everything." Before Olivia could formulate a response, Noah interjected. "Jacob Miller said his dad saw Richard at the grocery store yesterday. He said Richard was telling people that our mom is crazy." Olivia felt a chill. The grocery store was well within the boundary established by the restraining order, which prohibited Richard from coming within 500 feet of the Mills' home or the twins' school. But Brookline was a small community. Chance encounters were almost inevitable. "People sometimes say unkind things when they're angry or upset," she said carefully. "What matters is that you, your mom, and the people helping your family know the truth." This seemed to satisfy Noah, but Emma remained troubled. "What if the judge believes Richard instead of us?" she asked as they reached their front door. "What if he makes us see Richard again?" The question revealed that Emma had overheard more of Jessica's morning conversation than Olivia had realized. "That's not going to happen," she assured the child, unlocking the door with the key Jessica had given her. "There are lots of people working to make sure you stay safe, the detective, the doctors who examined you, Dr. Fletcher. The judge will listen to all of them, not just to Richard." Inside, the twins settled at the kitchen table for their after-school snack, apple slices with peanut butter and cheese crackers. As they ate, Olivia gently steered the conversation toward their upcoming art project, away from Richard and the worrying possibilities his legal maneuvers represented. By the time Jessica returned home at 6, the living room table was covered with magazine clippings, construction paper, and glue sticks. Noah's collage was a chaotic assemblage of sports images, animals, and bright colors, with the words happy and brave cut from headlines. Emma's was more methodical. Neatly arranged pictures of families, houses, and smiling children, with safe, prominently displayed in the center. "These are wonderful," Jessica exclaimed, examining each collage with appropriate admiration. "What inspired this project?" As Olivia explained the therapeutic purpose behind the activity, she noticed Jessica's phone vibrating repeatedly in her pocket. The mother glanced at it, frowned, and silenced it without answering. Later, after the twins were occupied with homework, Jessica pulled Olivia aside in the kitchen. "That was Tom," she said in a low voice. "He's arrived early and wants to see the kids tomorrow instead of Saturday. He says his schedule changed." "What did you tell him?" Olivia asked, noting the tension in Jessica's posture. "That we already had plans for tomorrow," Jessica replied, a hint of the old hurt in her voice. He can't just show up and expect everyone to rearrange their lives around him. That's exactly what he did during our marriage. Make unilateral decisions and expect me to accommodate them. Olivia nodded sympathetically. It's reasonable to expect him to stick to the agreed time. He thinks I'm being difficult, Jessica confided, shaking her head. Classic Tom. He doesn't consider how his inconsistency affects the kids. They need stability right now, not more unpredictability. The twins' bedtime routine that evening was disrupted by Noah's persistent questions about their father's visit. Will Dad stay at our house? Will he take us to his hotel? Does he know about Richard? Is he mad at Mom? Jessica answered each query with patience, though Olivia could see the emotional toll it was taking. Dad will meet you at the park on Saturday at 2 o'clock, as we planned, she repeated firmly. He'll bring you home by 5. And yes, he knows about what happened with Richard, but you don't have to talk about that unless you want to. After the children were finally asleep, Jessica collapsed onto the living room sofa with a heavy sigh. I forgot how exhausting it is dealing with Tom, she admitted. He has this way of making me feel like I'm being unreasonable even when I'm setting completely normal boundaries. That must be frustrating, Olivia said, gathering the remaining art supplies from the table. It is. And now I'm worried about how his visit will affect the kids right before Richard's hearing on Monday. Jessica ran a hand through her hair, a gesture of anxiety Olivia had come to recognize. Tom has a tendency to make big promises he doesn't keep. What if he tells them he's moving back to Boston, or that they can come live with him in California, and then disappears again for months? Have you shared these concerns with Dr. Fletcher? Olivia asked. Yes, in our last session. She suggested I talk to Tom directly about keeping his comments realistic and age-appropriate. Jessica gave a short, humorless laugh. Easier said than done. Tom thinks I'm trying to alienate the kids from him when I set any kind of parameter around his interactions with them. Olivia considered this as she put away the scissors and glue. Would it help if I spoke with him? As a neutral third party with a background in child psychology? I could frame it as general guidance for supporting children after trauma, not as criticism of his parenting. Jessica looked surprised, then thoughtful. That might actually work. Tom tends to be more receptive to professional opinions than to anything coming from me. She hesitated. But I hate to put you in that position. You're already doing so much for us. I don't mind, Olivia said sincerely. My priority is helping Emma and Noah navigate this challenging time. If that means having a conversation with their father about best practices for supporting them, I'm happy to do it. Jessica's grateful smile warmed something in Olivia's chest. Thank you, truly. Having you with us through all this. She trailed off, emotion making her voice unsteady. It's made all the difference. The following day brought an unexpected complication. As Olivia was preparing lunch for the twins, who had a half-day at school due to teacher development, Jessica called from the hospital. Richard sent flowers to the nurse's station, she said without preamble, her voice tight with stress. With a card apologizing for the misunderstanding and asking me to call him to work things out for the sake of the children. Olivia's grip on the phone tightened. That's inappropriate on so many levels. It gets worse, Jessica continued. He apparently told the delivery person some story about us being engaged. My colleagues are looking at me like I'm either a victim to be pitied or a drama queen who's exaggerating. The head nurse suggested I consider counseling before rushing to legal action against my fiancé. It gets worse, Jessica continued. He apparently told the delivery person some story about us being engaged. My colleagues are looking at me like I'm either a victim to be pitied or a drama queen who's exaggerating. The head nurse suggested I consider counseling before rushing to legal action against my fiancé. Olivia felt a surge of protective anger. That's manipulation, plain and simple. He's trying to create sympathy for himself and undermine your credibility. I know, Jessica said, sounding both angry and exhausted. I called Detective Wilson. She says it doesn't technically violate the restraining order since he didn't contact me directly, but she's documenting it. She thinks he's escalating because the hearing is getting closer. That makes sense, Olivia agreed. He's getting desperate. I need to go. We have an emergency coming in. But I wanted you to know what's happening. Please be extra vigilant with the kids today. After they hung up, Olivia found herself checking the locks on the doors and windows, drawing the curtains in the living room, her senses heightened by a new awareness of potential danger. Richard's move was calculated, a public gesture that made him appear remorseful and reasonable while actually serving as an implicit threat. I can reach you anywhere. When the twins returned from school, Olivia made a point of keeping them engaged indoors with games and activities rather than their usual trip to the playground. They noticed the change in routine. Of course, children their age rarely miss subtle shifts in adult behavior. Why can't we go to the park? Noah asked, peering out the window at the sunny autumn day. You said we could feed the ducks today. I thought we'd try something different, Olivia explained, keeping her tone light. How about we bake cookies instead? We can try that recipe with the chocolate chunks your mom mentioned. Emma, more perceptive than her brother, studied Olivia's face with that unnerving adult awareness she sometimes displayed. Is it because of Richard? She asked directly. Are you worried he'll be at the park? The question caught Olivia off guard. She hesitated, weighing the balance between honesty and unnecessary anxiety. I'm just being extra careful today, she said finally. Your mom called, and we agreed it would be nice to do indoor activities this afternoon. Did Richard do something? Emma pressed, her small face serious. Olivia sighed internally. These children had already endured lies and manipulation from an adult they were supposed to trust. She wouldn't add to that pattern, even with well-intentioned protection. Richard sent flowers to your mom at work, she explained, simplifying but not hiding the truth. It wasn't appropriate, and it upset her. The police know about it, and they're handling it. But we thought it would be better to stay home today, just to be safe. Noah's eyes widened. Is Richard coming here? Fear trembled in his voice. No, Olivia said firmly. He's not allowed near this house, remember? The judge made that very clear. I'm just being extra careful because that's my job, to keep you safe. This seemed to reassure Noah, who nodded and turned his attention back to the cookie ingredients Olivia had set out. Emma, however, remained thoughtful, her blue eyes troubled. Mom said Dad is coming tomorrow, she said after a moment. Will he protect us from Richard too? The question revealed so much about the child's understanding of adult relationships and power dynamics. In Emma's world, grown men were either threats or protectors with little middle ground. Your dad cares about you very much, Olivia said carefully. He wants you to be safe, just like your mom does and just like I do. And yes, he'll help protect you. But remember, there are already lots of people working to keep Richard away. The police, the judge, all the grown-ups who know what happened. Emma seemed to accept this, though she remained unusually quiet as they mixed cookie dough. Noah, by contrast, threw himself into the baking project with enthusiasm, his earlier fear apparently forgotten in the immediate pleasure of licking batter from the spoon. Jessica arrived home earlier than expected that evening, around 4:30. Her face was drawn, her movements tense as she hung up her coat. I couldn't focus at work, she admitted when Olivia raised an eyebrow in question. Not after those flowers. I kept thinking about Richard, about how he always finds a way to exert control. Before Olivia could respond, Jessica's phone rang. She checked the screen and grimaced. It's Tom. The conversation that followed was terse and one-sided, with Jessica mostly listening, her expression cycling through frustration, anger, and finally resigned acceptance. Fine, she said eventually, but only because it works better for the kids, not because your business meeting takes priority. She ended the call with a sharp tap on the screen. Let me guess, Olivia said. Another schedule change? Jessica nodded, exasperation plain on her face. He can't do tomorrow afternoon anymore. Now he wants to take them to breakfast on Sunday before his flight back to California. She sank into a kitchen chair. I shouldn't be surprised. This is classic Tom. Always changing plans last minute for work reasons, never considering the impact on others. How do you think the twins will handle the change? Olivia asked, thinking of Emma's earlier questions. They're used to it with him, unfortunately, Jessica said bitterly, which is its own kind of sad. She rubbed her temples. I just hope he doesn't add to their anxiety right before the hearing. Emma's already having trouble sleeping, and Noah asked me this morning if Richard would be at school. The twins' reaction to the schedule change was indeed muted, suggesting they'd grown accustomed to their father's inconsistency. Emma accepted the news with a simple nod, while Noah asked practical questions about what time they needed to be ready and whether they could order pancakes at the restaurant. Saturday passed uneventfully, with Jessica taking the twins to their regular therapy session with Dr. Fletcher in the morning. Olivia used the time to catch up on her coursework at her apartment, grateful for a few hours to refocus on her own studies and career goals. Though she'd come to care deeply for the Mills family, Zoe's warnings about maintaining professional boundaries echoed in her mind. It would be all too easy to become so enmeshed in their lives that she neglected her own professional development. Sunday morning arrived with a crisp clarity typical of late New England autumn. Olivia wasn't scheduled to work, but Jessica had called the night before, asking if she could come by after the twins' breakfast with their father. Tom suggested he drop them at home around 11, but I have to cover an emergency shift from 10 to 2, she'd explained. Would you mind being there when they get back? I don't like the idea of them processing the visit alone, especially if Tom says something upsetting, which he has a talent for doing unintentionally. So at 11:15, Olivia found herself letting herself into the Mills townhouse, which now felt almost as familiar as her own apartment. She made herself a cup of tea and settled at the kitchen table with her textbook, using the quiet time to review material for her upcoming exam. At 11:15, she checked her watch with a frown. No sign of the twins or their father. She sent a quick text to Jessica. Everything okay? No one home yet. Jessica's response was immediate. Typical. Try calling Tom. Olivia dialed the number Jessica had provided, but it went straight to voicemail. She left a brief, polite message asking Tom to call her back regarding the twins' return time. By 11:45, with still no word from Tom, Olivia's concern was growing. She called Jessica again. Still no sign of them, and Tom's not answering his phone. I'm not surprised, Jessica said, frustration evident in her voice. He probably lost track of time or decided to extend their visit without letting anyone know. He's done this before. Should I be worried? Olivia asked, unsure of the protocol in this situation. Honestly, no. Tom's irresponsible about schedules and communication, but he loves the kids. They're safe with him. Jessica sighed. Try calling again in half an hour. If you still can't reach him, text me, and I'll see if I can get coverage to leave early. At 12:30, after 2 more unsuccessful attempts to reach Tom, Olivia was about to text Jessica when she heard a car pull up outside. Peering through the living room window, she saw a silver rental car parking in front of the house. Tom Mills emerged first, tall, sandy-haired, with a casual confidence in his bearing that marked him as someone accustomed to commanding attention. He opened the rear door, and Emma climbed out, followed by Noah. Olivia opened the front door as they approached. Noah spotted her and broke into a run. Olivia! Dad took us to the Science Museum after breakfast. We saw dinosaur bones and a lightning show. That sounds amazing, Olivia said, smiling at his enthusiasm while noting Emma's quieter demeanor as she followed behind her father. I didn't know you were going to the museum today. It was a spontaneous decision, Tom said, extending his hand. You must be Olivia. I'm Tom Mills. Sorry we're late. Time got away from us at the exhibit. Olivia shook his hand, taking his measure. He was handsome in a conventional way, with an easy smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Jessica was concerned when you didn't answer your phone, she said, keeping her tone neutral. Was my phone ringing? I must not have heard it in the museum, Tom replied smoothly, though something in his expression suggested this wasn't entirely true. The kids were having such a great time. I hated to cut it short. Noah nodded enthusiastically. Dad said we could stay as long as we wanted, and he bought us science kits from the gift shop. Show her, Emma. Emma silently held up a box containing a crystal growing kit, her expression unreadable. "Well, come on in," Olivia said, stepping back to allow them entry. "Jessica had to work, so I'll be here until she gets home around 2. Tom hesitated at the threshold. "Actually, I was hoping to have a word with Jessica before I head to the airport. My flight's not until 5. "She's at the hospital until 2, Olivia reminded him. "But you're welcome to wait if you'd like." Tom checked his watch with a frown. "I suppose I could come back later. There are some things we need to discuss about the custody arrangement, especially in light of this situation with her boyfriend." The casual way he referenced Richard's abuse, in front of the children no less, made Olivia's professional alarm sound. "Why don't you two go put your science kits in your room?" she suggested to the twins. "Then you can tell me all about the museum." Once the children had gone upstairs, Olivia turned back to Tom. "Jessica mentioned you might have questions about how to support Emma and Noah during this difficult time. As someone with training in child psychology who's been working closely with them, I'd be happy to offer some guidance." Tom's expression shifted subtly, a flicker of defensiveness quickly masked by polite interest. "Of course, any insights would be helpful. Though I have to say, I'm still trying to understand how Jessica could have allowed this situation to develop. What kind of mother doesn't notice her children are being abused?" The accusatory tone confirmed Olivia's initial impression. Tom Mills was using his ex-wife's crisis as ammunition in their ongoing post-divorce conflict. "Actually," she said carefully, "abusers like Richard are extremely skilled at hiding their behavior. They present one face to the outside world, including to the children's primary caregiver, while systematically isolating and intimidating their victims. Jessica had no way of knowing what was happening when she wasn't home." Tom seemed taken aback by this direct response. "Well, obviously, I'm not blaming Jessica entirely," he backpedaled. "I just think if she'd been more present instead of working all those extra shifts." She was working those shifts to maintain the home and lifestyle the twins were accustomed to after the divorce, Olivia pointed out, keeping her tone professional despite her growing dislike for this man. Single parents often face impossible choices between financial stability and time with their children. A flash of guilt crossed Tom's face, quickly replaced by defensiveness. "I send child support every month. It's not my fault if it's not enough. California is expensive, and I had to restart my life there after Jessica decided she wanted a divorce." Olivia recognized the distortion in this framing, the subtle shifting of responsibility that echoed Richard's tactics in a milder form. She chose her next words carefully. "Emma and Noah are remarkably resilient children who are working hard to process a traumatic experience," she said, steering the conversation back to the twins. "What they need most right now is consistency, emotional safety, and unified support from the adults in their lives. That means avoiding any criticism of their mother in their presence, maintaining the routines that help them feel secure, and being reliable in your commitments to them." Tom looked as though he wanted to object, but something in Olivia's steady gaze made him reconsider. "Fair enough," he said after a moment. "I realize I haven't been as present as I should have been these past months. When Jessica called about what happened, I felt, guilty, I guess, like I should have been here to protect them." This admission, surprisingly vulnerable, softened Olivia's impression of him slightly. "It's natural to feel that way," she acknowledged. "But what matters now is how you support them going forward." "I'm thinking of flying back for the court date," Tom said, lowering his voice, "to show that bastard he can't mess with my kids and get away with it." "That's a generous impulse," Olivia said diplomatically, "but I'd suggest discussing it with Jessica first. The hearing could be triggering for the twins, and coordinating your approach would be beneficial." Tom nodded, though something in his expression suggested he had no intention of consulting his ex-wife about his plans. "I should get going. Tell the kids I'll call them tonight from the airport." After extracting promises from Emma and Noah to video chat before bedtime, Tom departed, leaving a lingering sense of disruption in his wake. Noah was excited about the museum visit and new science kit, chattering happily about the exhibits they'd seen. Emma, however, was subdued, arranging and rearranging her crystal growing supplies without actually opening the box. Did you have a good time with your dad? Olivia asked her gently as they sat at the kitchen table. Noah had disappeared upstairs to show off his new possession to his stuffed animals. Emma shrugged, her fingers tracing the outline of a crystal on the box illustration. I guess. You seem a little quiet. Is everything okay? The little girl was silent for a long moment, then asked, Is Dad mad at Mom because of Richard? The question revealed that Emma had likely overheard at least part of the adult conversation in the hallway. Olivia chose her words with care. Your dad is upset about what happened with Richard, just like everyone is. But that's not your mom's fault, and it's not your fault or Noah's either. It's only Richard's fault. Emma nodded, though she didn't look entirely convinced. Dad said he might have to rescue us if the judge makes a mistake. Alarm bells rang in Olivia's mind. What exactly did your dad say about that? He said if the bad guy tries to come back, he might take us to California to keep us safe. Emma's voice was matter-of-fact, but her eyes revealed her confusion. But Mom said we're staying here, and the police are making sure Richard stays away. The implication was troubling. Had Tom actually suggested to his 7-year-old daughter that he might take the children across the country against their mother's wishes? Or was this Emma's interpretation of a more innocent comment about visiting California? Your dad loves you very much and wants you to be safe, Olivia said carefully. But there are many people working to keep you safe right here in your home. The judge, the police, your mom, and me. You don't need to worry about having to leave. Emma seemed to accept this, though her continued fidgeting with the science kit suggested lingering anxiety. Olivia made a mental note to mention the conversation to Jessica and possibly to Dr. Fletcher. If Tom was indeed planting ideas about removing the children from their mother's custody, it could seriously undermine their sense of stability at an already precarious time. Jessica arrived home at 2:30, looking harried and exhausted. Sorry I'm late, she said, dropping her bag by the door. The ER was a madhouse. How did everything go with Tom? The visit itself seemed fine, Olivia said, choosing her words carefully. They went to the Science Museum after breakfast, which is why they were late getting back. But Emma mentioned something concerning. Apparently Tom told her he might rescue them and take them to California if the bad guy tries to come back. Jessica's face paled. He said what? She lowered her voice, glancing toward the stairs where the twins were playing. That's exactly the kind of thing that could traumatize them all over again. The idea that Richard might come back, that they might need rescuing. It completely undermines the sense of security we've been trying to rebuild. I wasn't sure if Emma might have misinterpreted something more innocuous, Olivia admitted. But it seemed specific enough to mention to you. Jessica's expression hardened. No, that sounds exactly like Tom. He's always been the hero in his own narrative. When we were married, he'd create problems with his impulsive decisions, then swoop in with grand gestures to fix everything. She shook her head in frustration. I need to call him before his flight. This is completely unacceptable. As Jessica stepped into the kitchen to make the call, Olivia could hear her voice rising in controlled anger. You had no right to frighten them with talk about rescuing them. No, I don't care what your intention was. They're finally starting to feel safe again, and you've just undermined that completely. The conversation continued for several minutes, Jessica's responses growing increasingly terse. When she returned to the living room, her face was flushed with anger. He doesn't see anything wrong with what he said, she reported, keeping her voice low. He thinks I'm overreacting. According to him, he was just reassuring them that he'd protect them if necessary. He doesn't understand how that implies Richard might return, that the current protections might fail. She ran a hand through her hair in frustration. This is why we couldn't stay married. He never considers the implications of his words or actions, especially on the kids. Olivia nodded sympathetically. Would it help if Dr. Fletcher addressed this with him? Sometimes people are more receptive to concerns when they come from professionals. Maybe, Jessica sighed. I'll mention it at our next session. For now, I just hope the damage is minimal. The rest of Sunday passed without incident, though Emma remained subdued, retreating into the blanket fort with a book rather than playing with her new science kit. Noah, less sensitive to undercurrents of adult tension, happily experimented with his own kit, creating colorful foam explosions in the kitchen sink under Jessica's supervision. Monday morning dawned gray and drizzly, matching the somber mood in the Mills household. Jessica had taken the day off work to attend Richard's hearing, scheduled for 10 o'clock at the Brookline courthouse. Dr. Fletcher had advised that the twins should maintain their normal routine rather than missing school, a recommendation Jessica had gratefully accepted. "I'll text you as soon as there's news," she promised Olivia at the school drop-off. Detective Wilson thinks it will be straightforward. The evidence is strong, and Richard's attorney's motion doesn't introduce any new factors that would justify lifting the restraining order. "Try not to worry," Olivia said, squeezing Jessica's arm supportively. "Focus on the facts, not on Richard's manipulations." Jessica managed a tight smile. Easier said than done. He's so convincing, so reasonable-sounding when he wants to be. Part of me is still afraid the judge will see that charming facade and miss the monster underneath. "Detective Wilson won't let that happen," Olivia assured her. She's seen this pattern before. She knows exactly what he's doing. After the twins were safely delivered to their classrooms, Olivia returned to the Mills house to prepare for their return that afternoon. She tidied the living room, restocked art supplies, and prepared ingredients for an after-school baking project, activities designed to create normalcy and security regardless of the hearing's outcome. Around 11:30, her phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Restraining order upheld. 6 months with option to extend. Richard looked furious but didn't approach me." Relief washed over Olivia. This was the best possible outcome. Legal validation of the danger Richard posed and continued protection for the Mills family. She responded with congratulations and supportive words, then returned to her preparations with a lighter heart. At 1 o'clock, the doorbell rang, an unexpected sound that immediately put Olivia on alert. She wasn't expecting any deliveries or visitors. Cautiously, she approached the front door and peered through the peephole. A man in a deliverman's uniform stood on the porch, holding a large bouquet of flowers. Immediately suspicious, Olivia opened the door only a few inches, keeping the security chain engaged. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Delivery for Jessica Mills," the man said cheerfully, checking his clipboard. "Beautiful arrangement. Someone must really care about her." "I'll take those," Olivia said firmly, unlatching the chain to accept the flowers. "Thank you." As the deliverman returned to his van, Olivia brought the bouquet inside and set it on the kitchen counter, her unease growing. The arrangement was elaborate and expensive. Roses, lilies, and orchids in a crystal vase. She found the card attached and hesitated only briefly before reading it. "Jessica, I understand the court's decision but hope we can still find a way to communicate directly. What happened was a misunderstanding that's being blown out of proportion. I miss the kids and know they miss me too. Please call me. We can work this out privately without lawyers." Richard, Olivia's blood ran cold. The message was a masterclass in manipulation. Reasonable sounding on the surface but deeply coercive underneath. The implication that Jessica should circumvent legal protections, that the abuse was merely a misunderstanding, that the children somehow missed their abuser. Every word was calculated to undermine Jessica's resolve. She pulled out her phone and called Jessica immediately. "Richard sent flowers to the house," she said without preamble when Jessica answered. "With a manipulative note asking you to contact him directly, outside the legal process." Jessica's sharp intake of breath was audible. "He's escalating," she said, her voice tight with fear and anger. "Detective Wilson warned me he might. The fact that he lost in court will have wounded his ego. He needs to reassert control." She paused. "This clearly violates the restraining order. He can't send things to the house, even through a third party." "I'll take photos of everything and call Detective Wilson," Olivia assured her. "Should I dispose of the flowers?" "No, keep them as evidence. And Olivia, please be careful. Richard knows you're there with the kids during the day. If he's watching the house." Jessica couldn't finish the thought. "I'll keep everything locked," Olivia promised. And I'll pick the twins up directly from their classrooms today instead of the usual meeting spot. After calling Detective Wilson and documenting the flower delivery, Olivia found herself moving through the house, double-checking locks, drawing curtains, peering out windows for any sign of unwanted surveillance. The sense of violation was profound. Richard had found a way to intrude upon the safe space the family had been rebuilding, to remind them all that he was still a presence in their lives despite legal barriers. When it was time to collect the twins from school, Olivia walked briskly, scanning the surroundings with heightened awareness. She arrived early, standing directly outside each classroom door rather than in the usual parent waiting area, her vigilance drawing curious glances from teachers and other caregivers. Emma noticed the change immediately. "Why are you standing here?" she asked as she emerged from her classroom. "We usually meet at the big tree." "I thought it would be nice to see your classroom," Olivia improvised. "Noah's teacher is showing me his artwork, and then we'll get him." The little girl accepted this explanation, but as they walked toward Noah's classroom, she asked, "Did Mom win against Richard today?" The question caught Olivia off guard. "What do you mean?" "Mom said there was a special meeting with a judge today about keeping Richard away from us," Emma explained with that preternatural maturity that sometimes emerged in her conversation. "Did the judge say he has to stay away?" Olivia nodded, impressed by Emma's understanding and relieved to share positive news. "Yes, the judge agreed that Richard needs to stay away from your family for at least 6 more months. Relief flickered across Emma's small face. "Good. I don't want to see him ever again." The walk home was tense for Olivia, though she maintained a cheerful exterior for the twins' benefit. Every passing car seemed potentially threatening, every pedestrian a possible observer reporting back to Richard. She knew her anxiety was probably excessive. Richard was unlikely to risk an obvious violation of the restraining order so soon after the hearing, but the delivery of flowers had shaken her confidence in the boundaries meant to protect this vulnerable family. She'd already decided not to mention the flower delivery to the twins, but upon arriving home, she realized her mistake. The elaborate bouquet still sat on the kitchen counter, impossible to miss. "Who sent Mom flowers?" Noah asked immediately, dropping his backpack by the door and racing to examine the colorful arrangement. "Is it her birthday?" "No, it's not her birthday," Olivia said carefully. "And we should probably leave those alone. They're going to be picked up soon." Emma, always more perceptive than her brother, narrowed her eyes. "They're from Richard, aren't they?" she asked directly. "That's why you're acting weird." Olivia hesitated, caught between her instinct to protect the children from worry and her commitment to honest communication that respected their experience. "Yes," she admitted finally. "They are from Richard. But your mom and Detective Wilson know about them, and they're taking care of it. The flowers will be gone soon, and you don't need to worry." Noah backed away from the arrangement as if it might bite him. Why did he send flowers? Is he trying to say sorry for being mean? "Sometimes people send gifts as a way to make others talk to them," Olivia explained, simplifying the manipulation tactic to a concept the 7-year-olds could understand. "But your mom doesn't have to talk to him just because he sent flowers. The judge said she doesn't have to talk to him at all if she doesn't want to." Emma nodded, her expression serious. "Richard used to bring Mom flowers when she was mad at him. Then she would stop being mad even if he did something really bad." The insight revealed how observant the child had been of the unhealthy relationship dynamics playing out in her home. "Well, that's not going to work this time," Olivia assured her. "Your mom knows that flowers don't fix bad behavior." To distract the twins from the unwelcome reminder of Richard's presence, Olivia suggested they bake cookies as planned. The activity worked for Noah, who threw himself into measuring flour and cracking eggs with his usual enthusiasm. Emma, however, remained distracted, her eyes returning to the flower arrangement repeatedly as they worked. "Can we put them somewhere else?" she finally asked. "I don't like looking at them." "Of course," Olivia agreed, moving the bouquet to the laundry room out of sight. "Better." Emma nodded, some of the tension leaving her small shoulders. "Richard always brought lilies," she observed. "He said they were special flowers for special ladies. But they made Noah sneeze." "They made you sneeze too," Noah added, looking up from his cookie dough rolling. Remember? Your eyes got all red and puffy that time. That's right, Emma confirmed. Mom told Richard we might be allergic, but he kept bringing them anyway. He said they were too beautiful to give up just because of a little sneezing. Another piece of the Richard Coleman puzzle clicked into place for Olivia. His need for control and admiration had outweighed even the physical comfort of the children. A man who would deliberately bring allergens into a home despite seeing their effect on vulnerable children was precisely the type to escalate when his authority was challenged by legal intervention. Jessica arrived home around 4, her face drawn with stress despite the positive outcome of the hearing. Detective Wilson accompanied her, immediately taking possession of the flowers and card as evidence. This is a clear violation of the restraining order, the detective confirmed. We'll add it to the charges against him. The fact that he's escalating from sending flowers to your workplace to sending them to your home is concerning. Do you think he's watching the house? Jessica asked, the fear in her voice barely contained. It's possible, Detective Wilson acknowledged. But more likely he's just trying different methods of contact to see what works. Classic testing of boundaries. We'll increase patrols in the neighborhood as a precaution, and I'd suggest being extra vigilant about the children's routines and security measures at home. After the detective left with the floral evidence, Jessica gathered the twins in the living room for what she called a family meeting. Olivia started to excuse herself to give them privacy, but Jessica asked her to stay. You're part of our support system, she explained, and I want the kids to see that we're all on the same page. With the twins settled on the sofa, Jessica kneeled in front of them, taking one of each child's hands in hers. I want to talk about what happened today, she began gently. The judge agreed that Richard needs to stay away from us, which is very good news. But sometimes, when grown-ups are told no, they try different ways to get what they want. Like the flowers, Emma said solemnly. Jessica nodded. Exactly like the flowers. Richard isn't supposed to contact us at all, but he's trying to find ways around that rule. So we need to be extra careful for a while. Is he going to try to hurt us again? Noah asked, fear making his voice small. No, sweetheart. There are lots of people working to make sure that doesn't happen, Jessica assured him. But we're going to have some special rules for a little while, just to be extra safe. She outlined new security protocols. Curtains to be kept closed at night, doors and windows always locked. No opening the door for anyone without an adult's permission. No deviating from usual routes to and from school. The twins were to stay with designated adults at all times. Jessica, Olivia, their teachers, or Dr. Fletcher. It sounds like when Richard was here, Emma observed, her perceptiveness once again startling the adults. He had lots of rules too. Jessica's face fell, the parallel clearly painful for her to hear. Oh, honey, these rules are different. Richard's rules were about controlling you and making you afraid. These rules are temporary, just to keep you safe until we're sure Richard has accepted that he can't be part of our lives anymore. When will that be? Noah asked. I don't know exactly, Jessica admitted, but not forever. Things will get better, I promise. And in the meantime, we still get to have fun, to build forts and bake cookies and read stories. We just need to be a little more careful about where we do those things. The twins seemed to accept this explanation, though Olivia noted the way Emma's small shoulders hunched, the way Noah moved closer to his sister on the sofa. Subtle physical manifestations of their renewed anxiety. Later, after the children were in bed, Jessica collapsed onto the living room sofa, the brave front she'd maintained all evening finally crumbling. I can't believe this is happening, she whispered, tears gathering in her eyes. Just when they were starting to feel safe again, when the nightmares were becoming less frequent. She looked up at Olivia, despair and determination warring in her expression. What if he doesn't stop? What if flowers turn into something worse? How long do we have to live like this? Olivia sat beside her, offering silent support. Detective Wilson thinks he'll eventually move on when he realizes he can't regain control, she said after a moment. Especially if he faces legal consequences for violations like today's. But in the meantime, we're prisoners in our own home, Jessica said bitterly. Again. First Richard controlled us from the inside, and now he's controlling us from the outside. She wiped angrily at her tears. I hate that the kids have to live with these new safety rules. Emma was right. It's not so different from when Richard was here, dictating every aspect of their behavior. The motivation is entirely different, Olivia pointed out gently. Richard's rules were about power. These are about protection. But will the twins understand the difference? Or will they just feel trapped and afraid all over again? Jessica shook her head, frustration evident in every line of her body. I thought winning in court today would be the end of this nightmare. Instead, it feels like just another chapter. Olivia wished she could offer more concrete reassurance, but the truth was that Richard's behavior was following a pattern familiar to those who worked with domestic abusers. December arrived in Brookline with the first significant snowfall of the season. The twins woke Olivia early on a Saturday morning, pounding on her door. The guest room that had gradually accumulated her belongings, as she spent more nights at the townhouse than at her own apartment. Olivia, it's snowing. Noah's voice was pitched with excitement only a 7-year-old could muster at 6 in the morning. Come see. She opened the door to find both children still in pajamas, faces flushed with excitement. Emma was bouncing on her toes, an uncharacteristic display of childish enthusiasm from the girl who often carried herself with premature gravity. The morning unfolded in a blur of snowball fights, lopsided snow sculptures, and a snow fort, resembling the blanket fort still occupying a corner of the living room. Watching the twins play with abandoned joy, Olivia marveled at their resilience. 6 weeks had passed since Richard's arrest. 6 weeks of steady, incremental healing marked by fewer nightmares, decreasing hypervigilance, and the gradual return of childish exuberance that had been suppressed during his reign of terror. Dr. Fletcher, who now visited only once weekly, had described their progress as remarkable. Children often recover more quickly than adults from traumatic experiences when provided with proper support, she told Olivia and Jessica. The consistent, loving environment you've created is exactly what they need. That safety was evident in 100 small ways. Noah's willingness to sleep in his own bed again, Emma's decreasing need to control her environment through obsessive tidying, both children's increasing comfort with expressing negative emotions without fear of punishment. The shadow of the closet was receding, though not yet gone entirely. There were still difficult moments. The previous week, a maintenance worker had come to fix the furnace, his heavy footsteps sending Noah into a brief panic attack. Emma still refused to play in her bedroom alone. Both children remained wary of unfamiliar men, a caution Dr. Fletcher assured was adaptive rather than problematic at this stage. By midday, all three were thoroughly exhausted and chilled. They retreated indoors for grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, comfort food that had become a weekend favorite in the Mills household. As they ate, Emma suddenly asked, "When is Richard's trial?" The question caught Olivia off guard. Though adults had been careful not to discuss legal proceedings in front of the children, they had absorbed fragments, perhaps overhearing phone conversations or picking up on emotional undercurrents. "I'm not entirely sure," Olivia answered honestly. "These things can take time. But remember, he's in jail now, so he can't hurt anyone while the lawyers and judges figure everything out." Emma nodded, accepting this. "Mom said we might need to talk to more people about what happened, like we did with Detective Wilson." "That's possible," Olivia acknowledged. "If that happens, your mom and I and Dr. Fletcher will help you understand exactly what to expect and be right there supporting you." "I don't want to see him," Noah said quietly, dunking his sandwich into his soup. "Not ever." "You won't have to," Olivia assured him, making a mental note to discuss this with Jessica and Dr. Fletcher. After calling Jessica to update her, Olivia learned important news. "Lauren, Detective Wilson, called this morning," Jessica said. "Richard has agreed to a plea deal. 10 to 15 years, no possibility of parole for at least 8 years. Relief flooded through Olivia. "That's wonderful news. No trial." "No trial," Jessica confirmed, her voice thick with emotion. "No testifying, no cross-examination, no seeing him. The evidence was overwhelming, especially with the Connecticut charges. His lawyer advised him this was the best outcome he could hope for. The news of Richard's plea deal settled over the household like a protective blanket. Though the twins didn't fully understand the legal implications, they grasped the essential fact. Richard had been definitively removed from their lives. This knowledge accelerated their healing, allowing them to look forward without the specter of his return. As Christmas approached, the Mills townhouse underwent a transformation. Decorations appeared, lights around windows, garlands on the staircase, a real pine tree filling the house with its resinous scent. Jessica explained that Christmas had been Richard's least favorite holiday. He'd found the decorations tacky and the traditions commercial. His disdain had muted their celebrations the previous year. "This year we're going all out," Jessica declared as they helped the twins hang ornaments. "Every light, every bauble, every bit of tinsel we can find." Tom Mills called more regularly now, having been shaken by the realization of what his children had endured. He sent extravagant gifts, but more importantly, maintained consistent communication, calling twice weekly at scheduled times. "He's trying," Jessica acknowledged grudgingly one evening. "It's not enough, but it's something." A week before Christmas, Jessica received a life-changing call. Once in private, she revealed to Olivia, "That was the hospital administration. They've offered me the position I applied for in the domestic violence intervention program, but as the program coordinator, not just a nurse. It would mean regular daytime hours, Monday to Friday, with occasional evening meetings but no overnight shifts." "Jessica, that's amazing," Olivia exclaimed. "It sounds perfect for your situation with the kids." "It is," Jessica agreed, looking slightly dazed. "But it would change our arrangement. If I'm home every evening and weekend, you wouldn't need to stay overnight anymore." "That's wonderful," Olivia said sincerely. "It's exactly what the twins need. More time with their mom. And honestly, it's perfect timing for me too." She hadn't planned to share her news yet, but the moment seemed right. "I've been offered a part-time position at the Brookline Family Counseling Center, starting in January. Dr. Fletcher recommended me." The counseling position was 16 hours weekly, working with children affected by domestic violence and family trauma. Combined with reduced hours at the Mills household, it created a balanced schedule allowing Olivia to advance her career while maintaining her connection with Emma and Noah. "It sounds like the universe is aligning things perfectly," Jessica observed. "You get to pursue your career goals, I get to be more present for the twins, and they get the benefit of both of us in their lives." "I was worried about reducing my time with them," Olivia admitted. "They've been through so much change already." Jessica shook her head, smiling softly. "Olivia, you're not disappearing. You're just shifting roles a bit. That's healthy. And frankly, it's a testament to how far they've come that they can handle this transition." Christmas Eve arrived with another snowfall, creating a picturesque setting for the holiday. Jessica had invited Olivia to spend Christmas with them, an invitation she'd gratefully accepted. Her own family lived in California, and while she'd originally planned to fly home, the Mills family had come to feel like her Boston family, a connection too important to abandon during their first Christmas after Richard. They attended a community carol service, the twins bundled in new holiday sweaters, their voices joining hundreds of others beneath gently falling snow. Afterward, they returned home for hot chocolate and "'Twas the night before Christmas," a Mills family tradition Jessica was determined to reclaim. As Olivia helped tuck the twins into bed that night, Noah asked suddenly, "Are you going to be our mom too, Olivia?" The question caught her off guard. "What makes you ask that, buddy?" "Because you live here a lot," he explained. "And you take care of us like Mom does. And you make Mom laugh again." Emma added, "Richard said he was going to be our new dad, but he wasn't nice. You're nice. So maybe you could be our new mom instead." The innocent logic brought a lump to Olivia's throat. "I'm not going to be your mom," she explained gently. "You already have a wonderful mom who loves you very much. But I am your friend, and I care about you both a great deal. I'll be in your lives as long as you want me to be." This answer seemed to satisfy them, though Noah added sleepily, "But you'll be here for Christmas, right?" "Absolutely," Olivia assured him. I'll be here when you wake up tomorrow. After the twins were asleep, Olivia joined Jessica in the living room to arrange presents under the tree and fill stockings. They worked in companionable silence for a while, Christmas music playing softly in the background. I'm not sure I ever properly thanked you, Jessica said suddenly, pausing with a wrapped gift in her hands. For everything you've done for us. For saving my children. Not just that first day, but every day since. You don't need to thank me, Olivia replied honestly. Being part of their healing, part of your family's journey. It's changed me too. Jessica nodded, understanding. Dr. Fletcher says trauma can create unexpected connections between people. Bonds forged in crisis that often prove remarkably enduring. I think she's right, Olivia said, thinking of how completely these three people had worked their way into her heart in just 3 months. The twins asked me last week if you could be their godmother, Jessica revealed with a smile. They'd heard the term at school and decided it meant a special grown-up who's not your parent but loves you anyway. Olivia laughed, touched by the children's interpretation. That's actually not far off. I told them we'd have to ask you, Jessica continued, her expression turning serious. But I want you to know, whatever form our arrangement takes going forward, you'll always be part of this family now. The twins need you in their lives. And frankly, so do I. The simple acknowledgement of their connection, of the bond that had grown from crisis to friendship to something like family, filled Olivia with a sense of belonging she hadn't realized she'd been seeking. Christmas morning dawned bright and clear, the new snow glittering in the sunlight. The twins woke early, of course, their excited voices filling the house as they discovered stockings and presents. Jessica captured everything on video, determined to document this first Christmas of their new beginning. Watching Emma carefully untie ribbons instead of tearing paper, seeing Noah's face light up at each new discovery, Olivia felt a profound sense of gratitude. 3 months ago, she'd been a recent graduate struggling to find her place in the world, taking a babysitting job out of financial necessity. Now she sat cross-legged on the floor of a home that had become a second home to her, witnessing the recovery of 2 remarkable children who had survived darkness and emerged into light. The journey wasn't over. Emma still had moments of hypervigilance. Noah still struggled with separation anxiety, and there would be challenges ahead as Richard's legal proceedings continued. But watching them now, surrounded by torn wrapping paper and new toys, laughing with the pure joy of children who felt safe and loved, Olivia knew with certainty that the locked door of their past no longer defined them. What defined them instead was resilience. The twins' remarkable capacity to heal, Jessica's fierce determination to rebuild their sense of security, and yes, Olivia's own commitment to being part of their ongoing recovery. Together, they had transformed a house of fear into a home of hope, proving that even in the darkest circumstances, connection and courage could light the way forward. As Emma crawled into her lap to show off a new book, as Noah demonstrated his remote-controlled car's abilities with squeals of delight, as Jessica caught her eye across the room with a look of shared understanding, Olivia knew that whatever changes the new year might bring, the bond forged between them would endure, a testament to the human heart's capacity to find family in the most unexpected places and to build something beautiful from the broken pieces of the past. 6 months later, Olivia adjusted the blanket on her lap as she settled into one of the Adirondack chairs on the mill's back patio. The June evening was pleasant but cooling as the sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. From inside the house came the sounds of Emma practicing piano, a new interest discovered in the spring, while Jessica prepared dinner. Hot chocolate delivery, Noah announced, carefully making his way through the sliding glass door with 2 steaming mugs. His tongue poked out slightly in concentration as he focused on not spilling. Hot chocolate in June? Olivia asked with a smile, accepting the mug from his careful hands. Mom says good things shouldn't only be for certain times, he explained, climbing into the chair beside her. Like how we had Christmas lights in April for my birthday. Olivia nodded, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. Your mom is very wise. Noah took a sip of his own drink, leaving a small chocolate mustache that he wiped away with the back of his hand. At 8 now, they'd celebrated his and Emma's birthday 2 months earlier. He seemed taller, more confident, his face having lost some of its earlier roundness. The fearful child who'd hidden from loud noises and flinched at sudden movements had gradually transformed into this more self-assured boy who now swung his legs contentedly beside her. "Are you coming to our end-of-school party next week?" he asked, looking up at her with hopeful eyes. "I wouldn't miss it," Olivia assured him. "I've already taken the afternoon off from the counseling center." Noah nodded, satisfied. "Good. I told Ms. Brennan you'd be there. She wants to meet you because I talked about you in my important people speech." Olivia felt a familiar warmth spread through her chest at this casual revelation. "You did an important people speech?" "Aha. We had to talk about 3 people who made a difference in our lives. I picked Mom, you, and Detective Wilson." He said this matter-of-factly, unaware of the emotional impact his words carried. "I'm very honored," Olivia said softly, resisting the urge to pull him into a hug. At 8, Noah had recently declared himself too big for excessive physical affection, though he still accepted bedtime hugs and occasional comforting when nightmares, now rare, disrupted his sleep. "Emma picked Mom and you too," Noah continued. "But her third person was Dr. Fletcher. She said therapists are like doctors for feelings, which is pretty smart, I guess." "That is smart," Olivia agreed. "Your sister has a way with words." As if summoned by their conversation, Emma appeared in the doorway, her blonde hair longer now and pulled back in a neat braid. "Mom says dinner's in 15 minutes, she announced. "We're having pasta with that sauce you like, Olivia." "Sounds perfect," Olivia replied, patting the chair on her other side. "Want to join our hot chocolate party?" Emma considered this with the careful deliberation that remained characteristic of her personality, then nodded and disappeared inside, returning moments later with her own mug. She settled beside Olivia, tucking her legs beneath her in a pose that made her seem older than her 8 years. "I got an A on my writing project," she announced after a comfortable silence. "Ms. Peterson said my story showed remarkable insight and emotional depth for a child my age." "That's wonderful, Emma," Olivia praised, careful to match the girl's matter-of-fact tone rather than showing excessive excitement, which Emma now tended to find embarrassing. "What was your story about?" "A girl who helps people who are scared find their courage again," Emma replied, glancing at Olivia from the corner of her eye. "She has magic glasses that let her see inside people's hearts." Noah snorted. "That sounds like Olivia, except without the magic glasses." Emma rolled her eyes at her brother's literal interpretation, but didn't deny the parallel. Instead, she sipped her cocoa and asked Olivia, "How many new kids did you help at your work this week?" Olivia had grown accustomed to this question. Both twins maintained an interest in her counseling work, though she was careful never to share specific details about her clients. 3 sessions with new children," she answered, "and my regular Tuesday and Thursday groups." Emma nodded, processing this information. "Do they all have bad things happen to them? Like us?" "Different kinds of difficulties," Olivia explained gently. "Some have experienced scary situations like you did. Others are having trouble with big feelings or changes in their families. Everyone has different challenges. But you help them all," Noah stated with absolute confidence. Olivia smiled. "I try my best, just like the brave girl in Emma's story." The past 6 months had brought significant changes for all of them. Jessica had thrived in her new position at the hospital's domestic violence intervention program, even receiving recognition from the city health department for innovations she'd implemented. The regular hours had transformed her relationship with the twins, allowing for family dinners, homework supervision, and weekend activities that had once been rare luxuries. Olivia's role had evolved as well. Though she no longer lived part-time at the townhouse, she maintained a close connection with the Mills family, spending at least 2 evenings a week with them and often joining weekend outings. Her position at the Brookline Family Counseling Center had expanded to 30 hours weekly, giving her valuable professional experience while still allowing time for her ongoing certification coursework. Richard Coleman remained in prison, his appeals denied. The legal proceedings had concluded without requiring the twins to testify in person, though they had participated in recorded interviews that were submitted as evidence. Dr. Fletcher had guided them through this process with remarkable skill, helping them understand their role in ensuring Richard couldn't hurt other children. Tom Mills had continued his halting attempts at improved fatherhood, visiting Boston quarterly and maintaining video calls in between. Though these interactions remained somewhat awkward, the twins had developed a cautious relationship with their father that Dr. Fletcher described as appropriately guarded but open to growth, a healthy response to his pattern of inconsistent engagement. The sound of the sliding door opening again drew Olivia's attention. Jessica stepped onto the patio, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. Her face relaxed in a way that had once seemed impossible during the tense days of Richard's presence and aftermath. "Room for one more at this hot chocolate gathering?" she asked, eyes twinkling. Noah immediately hopped up. "I'll get you a mug, Mom." As he darted inside, Jessica took his vacated seat with a contented sigh. "Peaceful evening," she observed, glancing at Emma, who seemed absorbed in watching a robin hop across the newly installed bird bath. Another example of how the Mills home had gradually transformed from Richard's sterile showcase to a lived-in family space. "Very peaceful," Olivia agreed. "Noah was just telling me about his important people speech at school." Jessica smiled. "Ah yes, Ms. Brennan sent me an email about how touching it was. Apparently, he explained in great detail how you found them in the closet and didn't even get scared or cry but just helped them feel safe." "He did?" Olivia asked, surprised by this interpretation of events. In her own memory, she'd been terrified, functioning on pure adrenaline and training rather than any special courage. "Children create their own narratives about traumatic events," Jessica said softly, echoing Dr. Fletcher's frequent observation. "Noah needed a hero in his story, and that's how he sees you." Before Olivia could respond, Noah returned with Jessica's hot chocolate and the announcement that the pasta timer was beeping. The moment of reflection was replaced by the practical business of dinner preparation, with Olivia helping to set the table while the twins washed their hands. The family meal that followed, for despite technical distinctions, that was what these gatherings had become, was filled with the ordinary chaos of children recounting school events, Jessica sharing an amusing incident from work, and Olivia contributing anecdotes from her graduate studies. To an outside observer, it might have appeared completely unremarkable, just another family dinner on a pleasant summer evening. Yet Olivia, watching Emma carefully twirl pasta on her fork, no longer afraid of making a mess, and Noah gesturing enthusiastically as he described a science experiment, no longer monitoring his volume with anxious glances, felt the profound significance beneath the ordinary surface. This normalcy had been hard-won, built through months of consistent care, professional support, and the twins' own remarkable resilience. After dinner, as the light faded from the sky, they gathered in the living room for their Thursday tradition, board games and ice cream before Olivia headed home. The blanket fort, once a permanent fixture, had evolved into a more sophisticated construction that appeared on weekends and special occasions, but its spirit remained in the casual comfort with which the family arranged themselves around the coffee table. "Monopoly or Clue?" Jessica asked, opening the cabinet that now housed an impressive collection of games. Another departure from Richard's austere decorating preferences. "Clue!" both twins chorused, their rare unanimity bringing smiles to both women's faces. As they set up the game board, Olivia noticed Emma watching her with unusual intensity. "Everything okay, Em?" she asked quietly while Noah was distracted by choosing his playing piece. Emma nodded, then asked in a deliberate whisper, "Are you happy, Olivia?" The question, so unexpected and perceptive, momentarily took Olivia aback. "Yes," she answered honestly. "I'm very happy. Why do you ask?" Emma shrugged one shoulder. "Mom says people who help others sometimes forget to make sure they're happy too. She says it's like putting on your own oxygen mask before helping others on an airplane." Olivia suppressed a smile at hearing Jessica's words repeated in Emma's earnest voice. "That's very wise of your mom. But yes, I promise I'm taking care of my own happiness too." Emma studied her face for a moment longer, then nodded, apparently satisfied with what she saw there. "Good, because we want you to stay in our lives forever, and that won't happen if you're unhappy." The matter-of-fact declaration, delivered without drama or excessive emotion in typical Emma fashion, nonetheless caught Olivia's heart in a tender squeeze. "I plan to stay in your lives for a very long time," she assured the child. "That makes me happy." The game proceeded with the usual good-natured competition, Noah's dramatic accusations when making guesses. I believe it was Colonel Mustard in the library with the rope, contrasting with Emma's methodical process of elimination. Jessica won the first round, Olivia the second, and as the twins began negotiating for just one more game, "Please," Jessica caught Olivia's eye with a look of contented complicity. Later, after final negotiations had resulted in promises of an epic weekend game tournament, Olivia helped tuck the twins into bed, a privilege she still enjoyed on the evenings she visited. Noah was asleep almost immediately, the energy that had propelled him through the day finally exhausted. Emma, as usual, took longer to settle, arranging her stuffed animals in a specific order before finally lying down. "Olivia?" she asked as Olivia prepared to turn off the bedside lamp. "Do you remember the day you found us in the closet?" Olivia paused, surprised by the question. The twins rarely referred directly to that day anymore, though certain elements of the experience still emerged in their play and conversations with Dr. Fletcher. "Yes, of course I remember." Emma nodded, her blue eyes serious in the soft lamplight. "I was thinking about it today because of my story, the one about the girl who helped scared people." "I see," Olivia said gently, sitting on the edge of Emma's bed. "What about that day were you thinking about?" Emma was quiet for a moment, apparently organizing her thoughts. "I remember being really scared when we first heard someone in the house. Richard said if anyone found us, terrible things would happen." She pulled her favorite stuffed rabbit closer. "But then it was you, and even though we didn't know you yet, somehow I knew it would be okay." Olivia felt a familiar tightness in her throat. "I'm glad you felt that way. I think," Emma continued carefully, "that some people are just supposed to find each other, like you were supposed to find us, and we were supposed to find you." The simple wisdom in the child's words momentarily robbed Olivia of speech. She reached out to smooth Emma's hair, buying herself a moment to compose her response. "I think you might be right about that," she finally managed. Emma nodded, satisfied with this confirmation of her theory. "That's why you'll stay in our lives forever, because we're supposed to be together." "I believe that too," Olivia assured her, leaning down to kiss her forehead. "Sweet dreams, Emma." As she turned out the light and quietly closed the door, leaving it open just the few inches Emma still preferred, Olivia found Jessica waiting in the hallway, a questioning look on her face. "Everything okay?" Jessica asked softly as they moved toward the living room. "Yes," Olivia replied. "Emma was just sharing some of her thoughts about the day we met. She has a theory that some people are supposed to find each other." Jessica smiled. "Out of the mouths of babes," she murmured. "She might be right, you know. What are the odds that a child psychology graduate would be the one to discover children in need of exactly that expertise?" "Statistically improbable," Olivia acknowledged with a small smile. "But I'm grateful every day that it happened." As they reached the front door, Jessica handed Olivia her light jacket against the evening chill. "Sunday afternoon, don't forget. The twins are practically counting the minutes until the aquarium trip." "I'll be here at noon," Olivia confirmed, sliding her arms into the jacket sleeves. "With appropriate snacks for a day of marine biology exploration." Jessica laughed. "You know them so well." Her expression turned more serious. "And thank you, Olivia, not just for Sunday but for everything. For being the person who found us when we most needed finding." The echo of Emma's sentiment wasn't lost on Olivia. "I think we found each other," she replied, "and I'm better for it." Driving home through the quiet streets of Brookline, Olivia reflected on the journey of the past 9 months. What had begun as a routine babysitting job had evolved into something profound, a connection that had changed the course of multiple lives, including her own. The Mills family had become an integral part of her world, expanding her understanding of both professional practice and personal commitment. Her apartment welcomed her with familiar comfort when she arrived home. Gone were the days of feeling torn between two residences. She had fully reclaimed the space as her own while maintaining her deep connection with the Mills family. Her living room walls now displayed framed children's artwork alongside her psychology certificates, visual reminders of how her personal and professional lives had intertwined in unexpected ways. As she prepared for bed, Olivia's phone chimed with a text from Jessica. A photo of Emma sleeping peacefully, her stuffed rabbit tucked securely under her arm. The caption read simply, "No nightmares tonight, just sweet dreams ahead." Olivia smiled at the image and the hopeful message it conveyed. The road to recovery wasn't linear. There would still be difficult moments, triggers, and challenges as the twins continued to process their trauma. But the foundation had been laid for genuine healing, for lives shaped by resilience rather than fear. The locked door that had once imprisoned Emma and Noah now stood perpetually open, a symbol of their liberation from the darkness Richard had imposed. Beyond that open door stretched a future filled with possibility, with growth, with the ordinary joys and challenges of childhood unfolding as they should, without the shadow of abuse darkening their path. And Olivia, the young woman who had once followed the sound of whimpering to a bedroom closet, had found her own door opening to unexpected purpose. In helping two frightened children find safety, she had discovered her calling, not just as a professional, but as someone capable of making a profound difference in lives that needed exactly what she had to offer. Emma's words echoed in her mind as sleep approached. Some people are just supposed to find each other. Perhaps, Olivia reflected in those final conscious moments, that was the most important lesson of this entire journey. That healing happens in connection, that courage is contagious, and that sometimes the simple act of opening a door can change everything that follows.